Sun Woon ascends and officially becomes a god. Now he has to make a choice. His very first starting race. First up, he thinks about the frogmen, since the king already gifted them to him. They come with insect-based abilities. But he shuts that idea down fast. Their tribes number over 500 strong. And with numbers like that, trying to influence them right now would be a nightmare. So instead, he searches for a smaller race already on the brink. That's when he spots a band of exiled lizardmen. And yeah, they're perfect. They're weak and barely standing. Injured, exhausted, and mostly elderly. Banished from their homeland, they've lost all hope. For Sun Woon, this is exactly what he wants. The perfect starting line to conquer the world. Before any of this happened, Sun Woon was an absolute monster of a player, dominating the strategy game perished world. 4 years straight. Then one day, after his final match, he gets dragged straight into the game itself. And he's not the only one. Top-tier players from other worlds are pulled in too. Their mission is simple: rule civilizations as gods. Guide them toward absolute domination. The last god left standing wins it all. Becoming the true god of this world, gaining everything. Anyone who fails doesn't respawn. They die. Back to the lizard men. Given how broken they are, Sun Woon can easily claim their faith. All it takes is one miracle. And he chooses the weakest target of all. A wounded lizard man barely able to keep pace with the group. As the starving, injured lizard men drag themselves across the desert, they suddenly freeze in disbelief when they see a wounded animal lying helpless on the ground, basically gift-wrapped for them. Without hesitation, the desperate lizard men leap onto it. They go absolutely feral, trying to claim as much as they can. The sick and elderly in the back feel crushed, knowing nothing will be left. The healthy lizard men rip through the meat, taking all the best parts, leaving behind nothing but bare bones. The greedy ones even start gnawing on those leftover bones, until one kind-hearted lizard man steps in and stops them. He gathers what's left and brings it to the king, then shares it with the sick and the elderly. Those poor souls are thankful even for bones, eating like it might be the last meal they ever get. The healthy lizard men aren't happy with this at all. To them, feeding scraps to the weak is pointless. They argue the injured won't last long anyway. Their wounds are getting worse. It's a miracle they're still alive. But the kind lizard man reminds them of a moment when one of the injured, Rack, risked his life to protect them from a saber-tooth. They should be thankful, not selfish. Still, in the eyes of the healthy lizard men, the truth remains: the sick and injured will eventually die. They keep arguing as the sun sets, until night falls and everyone finally drifts off to sleep. While the tribe rests, Rack writhes in pain from the rotting wound on his shoulder, letting out quiet groans. That's when he notices a blue butterfly fluttering around, like it wants his attention. After watching it for a while, Rack slowly stands and starts following the glowing creature. A few lizard men see him leave and assume he's finally given up on the group. But Rack isn't running away. He's just curious. There's something strange above, and he wants answers. Maybe it's all in his head. After all, no one else noticed anything. But even if it's just an illusion, he needs to know. And when he reaches the top, he looks up at the moon, and discovers a massive cluster of beetles stuck together. Rack is stunned, realizing there's enough food here to feed everyone. With this first miracle, Nebula moves one step closer to claiming a race. The beetles he sent can feed the entire tribe for days. Nebula is genuinely surprised they share the blessing without fighting. It proves how strong their will really is. In the end, Rack chooses to place his faith in the god who fed them. He gives him a name, the nameless beetle god. That alone catches Nebula completely off guard. He was convinced his god name would be butterfly-themed. Still, he's just glad to finally secure a race. And he's especially pleased with Rack. A kind, selfless lizard man who shared the blessing with everyone. Nebula knows this guy will be vital to building his civilization. A few days later, the lizard men finally make it back to the forest. They've found their sanctuary. The wound that had been eating away at Rack is fully healed now, and he credits it all to the nameless beetle god, at least in his mind. He even starts telling the others about the benevolent one who blessed him. For Rak, his overnight recovery is proof enough. Black beetle-like scales now cover the scar on his shoulder, and with that power, Rak feels reborn and sets his sights on hunting a buffalo. To prove his strength and the blessing everyone else doubts, he plants his feet and winds up. Then hurls the spear with everything he's got. The tree explodes on impact. Everyone just stares, jaws on the ground, witnessing strength that straight up shouldn't exist in a lizard man body. To understand how they found this place, and why Rak is so obsessed with hunting a buffalo, we rewind a few days. Rak is once again chasing those strange, vision-like signals. The group gets excited, thinking they might score another beetle jackpot. They follow eagerly, trusting only what Rak can see. But Rock raises a concern. Winter is coming, and the beetles keep appearing from the direction of freezing winds. If they go any farther, they could all freeze to death. That puts everyone on edge, wondering if following Rak's visions is really the right move. Even Rak admits he doesn't know where these visions are leading. With no other options, he has no choice but to trust them and keep going. The reason Rak feels uncertain is simple. Nebula still doesn't have enough faith yet. Without Rak, Nebula knows he couldn't influence anything at all. For now, all he can do is hope Rak keeps believing. Because that belief is the key to a future beyond imagination. Even without knowing the destination, Rak keeps following the visions. And eventually, they reach a sanctuary. This miracle instantly boosts everyone's faith. The nameless beetle god has guided them to safety. Nebula's god level jumps by 1, officially hitting level 2, and his sub-area expands as well. With that level up, he unlocks a new skill, Insect Sanctification. This ability allows Nebula to appoint a priest. And obviously, Rak is the only possible choice. The blessing placed on Rak will let him spread the god's will. Later that night, as Rak sleeps, surrounded peacefully by his kin, he hears his name being called and slips into a dream. Inside it, he meets a mysterious figure who reaches out a hand toward him. When Rak grabs it, a water buffalo skull appears in his grasp. Instinctively, Rak understands the message. He lifts the skull and gently places it upon the figure's head. In that moment, the nameless beetle god finally reveals himself to Rak. It's the first time he's ever seen him. When morning comes, Rak tells everyone about the strange dream. Naturally, the others ask what the god wants, and why Rak believes this mysterious being is demanding a buffalo sacrifice. Hunting a buffalo means venturing deep into dangerous wilderness, an insanely risky move. But they can't ignore the fact that this is the same god who led them to safety. Even so, one lizardman openly objects, warning that a hunt like this would require the entire group and put everyone's life on the line. Even Rak admits he can't risk everyone's lives. That said, the hunt is still happening. He'll just do it alone. Back in the present, right after Rak shows off the insane power surging through him, strong enough to straight up shatter trees, the entire tribe is stunned in disbelief. Even the wise old lizardman questions how absurd this is. Rak was literally dying not long ago, his wound rotting away. Now this guy's out here demolishing trees with spear throws. It almost feels like fate is finally on their side. That's when Rak spots an entire herd of buffalo grazing down the hill. Seeing buffalo here is nothing short of a miracle. Buffalo always migrate to familiar grounds, so a whole herd randomly showing up here makes zero sense. Rak doesn't care about explanations and charges in, moving like a starving beast thirsty for blood. All he's thinking about is feeding the people he loves. With one massive swing he strikes a buffalo straight in the skull, dropping it on the spot. Rak becomes the spearhead for the tribe, giving everyone the courage to rush in with their weapons. Later that day, the entire tribe gathers. They stack up the buffalo skulls and hang a full buffalo upside down as an offering. With everything set, Rak begins the prayer. Everyone follows along, praying to the benevolent, nameless beetle god to accept their sacrifice. Nebula watches from above. The ritual is rough, but the sincerity is what matters, and the massive wave of faith he receives proves it worked. That's why Nebula isn't complaining. It's impressive for a first-time priest. Honestly, Nebula earned that faith boost after everything he's invested in these lizard men. Now the real issue is survival. Nebula isn't a god of grass or land. He can't just grow food or summon water. But remember, he's the god of insects. Before this, he used bugs, mainly grasshoppers. He sent them to wipe out grasslands and force the buffalo down from the mountains. The problem is, the lizard men have zero knowledge of animal husbandry. They even slaughtered the baby buffalo instead of raising it. Then again, Nebula knows expecting that level of knowledge right now is unrealistic. This oasis can't sustain a growing population forever. At best, they'll survive a few more years like this. They know nothing about farming or herding, so their future is shaky at best. And knowledge can't just be handed over. It would break the rules. It'll take time, but Nebula believes they'll figure it out eventually. So he starts things off by granting a small blessing to his priest. The day after the sacrifice, Rak stands before the altar made of buffalo bones. He had a disturbing dream last night, vague but deeply unsettling. When his friend Zeol asks about it, Rak explains that the altar was shaking in his dream. The oasis was drying up. No fish. The land was overworked, unable to grow anything anymore. But Zeol brushes it off, saying their god wouldn't abandon them. Rak believes in their god too. He truly does. But what if that dream was a warning? If they ignore it and do nothing, wouldn't that be the same as defying their god's will? That thought is what's eating at Rak. As he sits atop the altar, he suddenly notices something wrong, and calls Zeol over immediately. In the distance, a massive group marches toward the oasis. Rak instantly understands the shaking altar from his dream. From their formation and the rising dust, this approaching force is definitely bad news. Rak and his friend recognize them instantly. The blue scales, the massive frames, and the beasts they're riding, there's no doubt. It's the Blue Leather tribe. The same tribe that stole their homeland and forced them into exile. Judging by their movement, they're searching for a new place to conquer. And since the oasis can't be seen from far away, they've unknowingly marched straight toward it. Rak can only pray they pass by without noticing the oasis. Or at least, that's what they hoped. Until a big-mouthed scout from the oasis yells straight at the Blue Leather tribe, instantly drawing all their attention. They screwed up. But Rak refuses to call this bad luck. Maybe this is actually a good thing. Maybe it's a mission their god set for them. A mission to absorb the lizard men enslaved by the Blue Leather tribe. A mission to unite the Blue Leather tribe with his people. This has to be divine will. Otherwise, there's no way their god would guide their old enemies straight to the oasis. And when Rak notices those familiar blue butterflies floating nearby, his doubt vanishes completely. This is the god's will, and he won't question it. All he has to do is play his role as the god's apostle. Cut to Nebula, watching everything play out. He's incredibly proud of Rak. Rak must defeat the Blue Leather tribe and bring them into the fold, boosting population growth and unlocking new progress. What fascinates Nebula most is Rak's judgment. Rak chose this path on his own. That proves he has an unshakable will. Oh, and by the way, he's already level 14. Even facing an enemy force, he's still considered alliance over slaughter. That kind of mindset makes him perfect leadership material. All Nebula needs now is to strengthen Rak's faith so his choices naturally align with Nebula's goals. Cut to the Blue Leather tribe's leader. The fat bastard sneers and asks if this oasis belongs to them. Our lizard men fire back twice as hard, telling these hobos to get the hell off their land. The fat ass asks another brain-dead question. What's so special about this place anyway? Rak steps forward calmly and says this land is sacred, where their god resides, the realm of the nameless beetle god. As expected, the chieftain scoffs again. He can't believe a god would bother speaking to a savage like Rak. He's done listening. He orders Rak to leave now, promising no disaster if they walk away quietly. Rak fires back with absolute confidence, saying the Blue Leather tribe can't win, no matter their numbers. Naturally, the chieftain thinks Rak is insane for ignoring such an overwhelming disadvantage. But Rak keeps that smug, fearless smile. And instead of arguing, he challenges the leader directly. The chieftain is furious, insulted by someone he sees as beneath him. Rack calls the Blue Leather tribe homeless strays with nowhere left to go. That's why he's offering mercy. A chance to live under the god's blessing. The fat bastard bursts out laughing like he just heard the dumbest joke ever. He doesn't believe in gods at all, only power, and Rack is clearly outnumbered. But Rack's resolve doesn't shake. He takes his stance, declaring he won't back down while trusting his god completely. Losing his patience, the Blue Leather chieftain charges forward atop his beast, ready to crush Rack in a single strike. Rack prays for his god to grant him the strength to defeat the evil standing before him. As the beast lunges closer, Rack's weapon shatters completely, and the monster swings its paw again to finish him. At that exact moment, Nebula receives a system alert announcing a clash between civilizations. Another notification follows, officially recognizing these lizard men as Nebula's tribe, nurtured under his domain for a long time. This sudden recognition unlocks a brand new skill, one that completely changes the battle. The moment Nebula activates it, we cut back to Rack just as the attack is about to land. But right before impact, Nebula descends into Rack's body. The beast's paw slams down. The Blue Leather chieftain smirks, convinced Rack is finished. But his smile vanishes the instant he sees it. Rack is already far away, dodging the attack at the very last second. Nebula is inside him now, flooding his body with insane power and agility he never had before. The chieftain attacks again, swearing he won't miss this time. Nebula activates 4 stats at once, foresight and size, boosting the fat lizard's numbers, but honestly, despite all that arrogance, his stats are painfully average. Weak enough for Rack to handle even without Nebula. The real issue is the beast he's riding. Fighting both at once won't be easy. That beast is a modern Drake, and that's exactly why Nebula chose to possess Rack. The skill grants Rack a new stat called Divinity, marked as D. 1D equals 200 points, and with 3 DS per attribute, his stats explode, strength jumps from 30 to 630. That's how Rack launches forward at lightning speed, and straight up flips the massive Drake over with his bare hands like it weighs nothing. Everyone watching nearly pops their eyeballs out. This reaction is exactly what Nebula expected. Even the fat chieftain is frozen in disbelief, refusing to accept what he's seeing. He convinces himself it has to be some kind of trick. After crawling out from under his overturned Drake, he lunges at Rack, dagger aimed straight for his chest. But Rack ends it with a single, humiliating slap right across his face. The slap hits like my mom's, instantly knocking all strength out of the chieftain's legs. With their leader down, Rack dares anyone else to step up if they've got the guts. Just like Nebula predicted, everyone drops their weapons and surrenders on the spot. Once it's over, Rack regains control of his body, completely stunned by what just happened. The only explanation he can come up with is that his god possessed him. Later that day, the newly joined lizard men gather around the altar and finally get to eat. They're shocked when they realize Rack's group are the same ones who vanished into the wilderness long ago. Their scale color changed after enduring such brutal conditions. The gray lizard men proudly tell their story, how they followed the nameless beetle god to this sanctuary. Without him, they would have died alone in the wild. The blue lizard men find the idea of a benevolent god incredibly intriguing. Honestly, they wouldn't have believed any of it if Rack hadn't shown that inhuman strength that clearly breaks all limits. Cut to Rack and his friend Zale, who's clearly worried about what bringing in the Blue Leather tribe means. With this new tribe joining, their population has exploded, nearly a 600% increase. At this rate, resources will run dry fast, throwing them back into the same hell they escaped from. But Rack already knows what needs to be done. They're leaving the oasis. Zale absolutely hates that idea. Wandering the wilderness again without a destination sounds insane. But Rack believes their god has already shown the path. The solution to Zale's worries lies with their new brothers. Together, they'll become the catalyst to move forward. The next day arrives. Some of the gray lizard men try taming a blue lizard, the beast once ridden by the deceased Blue Leather chieftain. By the way, one of the big lizard men is named Yuri, and despite their best efforts, they can't tame this absolute menace. That's when Rack shows up. His presence alone makes the drake start sweating. It remembers getting knocked out in one hit. That terrifying memory makes it shiver and step back. But Rak isn't here to fight. He calmly offers the beast some roots to eat. The creature hesitates at first, clearly suspicious, but eventually starts nibbling on the roots, leaving everyone stunned, since they'd been trying forever to tame it. Yet around Rak, the beast instantly turns friendly, sticking close like they've been companions forever. Rak then feeds him even more radishes. If the god chose to spare this creature, then it has to mean something. At least, that's what Rak believes, which is why he honors his god's will by caring for it. After finishing the food, the creature looks around, clearly wanting more. But Rak doesn't give in to Manon's greed. He needs to learn patience. The creature seems to understand, nodding before reluctantly backing away and obeying his new master. With that settled, Rak leaves, telling the others to let him know if Manon causes trouble again. Yuri seems to have learned something from watching all this, but keeps it to himself for now. We then cut to Rak questioning a blue lizard man. Turns out this guy knows how to craft weapons. But their former leader's strict and stupid rules held him back. With proper resources, he could have made far better gear. Right now, the biggest issue is a lack of wood. Most of it was burned as fuel for forging. After gathering all the details about materials and weapons, Rak dismisses him, promising to give a final decision tomorrow. Next up is an old lizard man missing his left hand. He introduces himself as a wanderer, someone who's traveled endlessly, searching for a place to belong. During his journeys, he learned how to read paths and routes. He's found lands rich enough to support their current population. Though he can't guarantee they're unclaimed, other tribes or wanderers may already be there. Rak isn't bothered. If whoever's there is hostile, he'll defeat them and take the land. The wanderer accepts this answer and chooses to trust Rak's plan. Rak then asks another question. Would he also trust and believe in the same god? The wanderer responds by pointing up at the sky. He says his faith lies in the stars. At night, he explains, if you learn to read the stars' paths, you'll never lose your way. Rak promises to believe in the stars as well, if the wanderer can prove it in the coming days. The wanderer then teaches Rak about ropes and bindings. After finishing his lesson on stargazing, he asks Rak to observe the stars with him the next night. Just then, Yuri comes to speak with Rak. He clearly has something on his mind. Rak first thinks it's about Manon, but it's not. Though Yuri does mention one thing, Manon may look grumpy about food, but as long as he's fed on time, he's gentle as a dog. The real reason Yuri came is because he heard rumors that the tribe will soon leave this place. And for that, they'll need food to survive the journey. Earlier, Yuri saw how Rak tamed a savage drake like it was nothing. That sight sparks an idea. Maybe they could also tame the buffalo and secure a steady food supply. With that realization, Rak's people unlock a new survival method: livestock farming. Throughout history, humans relied on two main survival strategies: agriculture and livestock production. If Nebula had to choose, agriculture would normally be better for long-term stability. History backs that up. Early civilizations settled around rivers. But Nebula isn't ruling humans. Lizard men have powerful bodies and natural adaptability. Because of that, they're far better suited for livestock farming than crop farming. On top of that, advancement requires tools. And right now, that blue lizard man with smithing knowledge is already experimenting with iron. Nebula is pleased. They've entered the age of primitive iron tools. They're weaker than bronze, sure, but for now, they get the job done. In fact, that's a massive leap for a tribe that used to rely on nothing but stone. Another thing that grabs Nebula's attention is the lizard man skilled in astronomy. His knowledge is basic for now, but Nebula hopes the stargazer will keep growing and learning. Later that night, Rak gazes up at the sky and realizes the stargazer was right. The stars really do work like a divine compass. Only now does he grasp how important astronomy will be for their future. After some time, everyone gathers around the altar. That's when Rak delivers the heavy news. He reminds them how much time has passed since the Benevolent One brought them here. Not only that, the Almighty reunited them with their lost brothers. The benevolent one chose to save their kin, rather than letting them die alone in the wilderness. Because the god understood the power of unity. Otherwise, they never would have been welcomed into this sanctuary. But Rak believes. The time has come to leave and expand. He calls forward the stargazer and introduces him to everyone as the one who taught him the language of the stars. Rak confirms this knowledge is real, not a trick, and as chieftain, he grants Stargazer the title of guide for the entire tribe. From this day on, everyone is to follow Stargazer alone, the one who will lead them to their next home. Rak now asks Stargazer to reveal their destination. The wise lizard man raises his finger and points ahead. At sunrise, they will begin their journey south. The march will take 10 full days, and along the way, they'll pass a rotting lake, then after 3 more days, they'll cross barren mountains and valleys. If they follow his guidance exactly, he promises they'll reach an endless forest, teeming with beasts and many species. In short, it's the perfect land for their growing population. After finishing his words, Rak respectfully sends the wanderer away. Then he takes control of the gathering, drawing everyone's focus again. Standing atop the altar, he calls out to Yuri, asking why they shouldn't slaughter every buffalo they hunt. Despite his size, Yuri gets nervous and stumbles over his words. He explains that by preserving their prey and keeping it alive, they'll have food when true starvation hits. Rak immediately praises Yuri's foresight for holding back his instincts and resisting the urge to eat immediately, and instead thinking about the future. To reinforce the lesson, Rak rewards Yuri with an iron weapon. Everyone gasps when they see it. A weapon made of iron. And Rak doesn't stop there. He also rewards others who resisted their hunger and preserved their hunts for later. Watching these rewards, the rest of the tribe starts craving iron weapons too. And just like that, Rak's plan clicks. This simple act pushes everyone to value preservation over blind instinct. Right then, Rak grabs one of the buffalo skulls and lowers it down, pulling it over his face like a sacred war mask. He calls for the warriors to step forward. Yuri answers first, and Rak hands him a skull of his own. Those who wear these skulls are consecrated as skeleton warriors. Fighters sworn to stand beside Rak and carve their god's will into the world. They can no longer remain in this sacred land. Their god demands movement, demands obedience. They must depart immediately and seek the next sanctuary awaiting them. As dusk cracks open the sky, Rak calls upon their god, the nameless beetle god. He orders every warrior to carve that name into their very souls. The road ahead will be brutal, the trials endless. But they must endure, just like they endured resisting the urge to devour the buffalo. Their suffering is their offering. Their resolve is their worship. With iron spears raised high, everyone swears to march forward. Rak stands beneath the dying light. New day, new journey, new beginning. He quietly asks his god for forgiveness for speaking so boldly, for invoking his name, for using divine will as a banner to unite everyone. But the god watches it all unfold, completely unbothered. In fact, he's proud to call Rak his high priest, because Rak's leadership is genuinely changing his people, lifting morale and speeding up their growth. Yuri is proof of that, leveling up through his actions. Even Rak's special stats have grown. Not once has Nebula been disappointed by the results his high priest delivers. But now, the real game begins. Rak's true trials lie ahead. Under the blazing sun, the entire Lizardman Legion trudges through the wilderness. The heat is so brutal that even Manon collapses. Rak immediately calls for a short break. As they rest, doubt starts creeping in. Some wonder if they'll even survive this desert, let alone reach their destination. Even Rak feels uneasy. They've already been marching for 3 days. Everyone is exhausted, and to make things worse, their supplies are running dangerously low. Relying on another miracle from their god is the last thing Rak wants to do. That's when Yuri comes sprinting back with urgent news. They've spotted another species ahead. Orcs, amped up and aggressive, clearly looking to loot the lizard men they spotted. But once they get close and see the full legion, the orcs freeze, sweat pouring down their faces. Just as the skeleton warriors get ready to bash skulls, the crafty orcs drop. their stone weapons and surrender. Before any fighting starts, the lizard men offer them food. The orcs thank them first, then explain what happened. They're wandering because their home was taken by a monster. They used to live in the hills. It wasn't perfect, but it was livable. Then one monster showed up, and they were forced to flee. The word monster instantly grabs Nebula's attention. So he scouts the area himself. What he finds is a massive centipede guarding a square structure on its back. This thing is an abomination, and there are many kinds of them. This one is called the ancient Coleoptera. Worst part? It has triple D in every stat, an extra 600 points each. Here's the scary part. In perished worlds lore, abominations were created by ancient gods long dead. After those gods vanished, the creatures were left behind, roaming the world unguided, and feared. Their defining trait? Venomous fangs. Long story short, this is not something Nebula should mess with, especially not with his civilization at its current strength. As the creature twists and writhes, the ground trembles, sending fear through the lizard men. But the green orc calmly explains the truth. The monster is asleep, just sleepwalking. With limited time, Rak weighs his choices. According to the Wanderer, turning back and following the mountains would add 8 more days. Burning 8 days of supplies for a detour makes Rak hesitate. But charging that monster head-on feels just as impossible. Especially when his people are already terrified. Rak freezes, stuck in a brutal dilemma. Meanwhile, Zale looks up at the towering cliffs and the massive boulders sitting right at the edge. You can probably tell what she's thinking already. That's exactly why she suggests fighting instead of taking the long detour, and when Zale says fight, she means it. Her intellect stat is way above the average lizardman. She's already figured out how to turn the terrain into a weapon. But for her plan to work, they first need to commit. They have to find a way to push those massive boulders with minimal effort. She remembers how the blacksmith once used a device. A bellows, pumping oxygen into the fire to strengthen the flames. In the same way, they need a system to move those stones efficiently. After thinking it through, they figure out a lever mechanism to shove the boulders off the cliff. Working together, they finally manage to make it work. Slowly shifting the boulders into position. Nebula praises his people for inventing such a simple but deadly solution against a monster like the centipede. Still, to guarantee victory, they need to drop all the boulders at once. Eventually, they release the first one. It rolls off the cliff, picking up terrifying speed. The centipede notices far too late. The first boulder lands clean, slamming into the monster, but barely hurting it. It only cracks part of its skull, instantly enraging the beast. The monster starts climbing upward, charging straight for the lizard men to wipe them out. The second group of skeleton warriors is ordered to drop their boulder, but they struggle. It's already too late. Nebula has no choice but to intervene himself. He descends into Rak's body and pushes the boulder with divine strength. As the second boulder falls, Zale yells to drop the third, but there's no time to reset the lever. So the absolute Gigachad Rak goes all in, shoving the massive stone with nothing but raw muscle. His muscles bulge, veins popping, and he forces it off the cliff. Even then, Nebula knows this still might not be enough. That's when Rak grips his spear and jumps off the cliff. He launches himself downward, spear first, falling like a damn meteor. He strikes the centipede right in a critical spot. The monster screams in agony. And at that exact moment, another boulder drops, smashing straight into its skull. Then the final boulder crashes directly onto its face, completely crushing it. Rak lands back on solid ground, watching the monster finally collapse. Back on his throne, Nebula lets out a long breath of relief. The system announces the successful subjugation of an abomination. This victory massively increases Nebula's faith. And that's not all. The system grants him a new reward. Abomination Essence, something Nebula has wanted for a long time. As you know, he can already create resources for his civilization using faith. But to create something that doesn't exist in the world at all, he needs special materials. And that's where Abomination Essence comes in. With it, Nebula can create sacred beasts. Sacred beasts exist solely to spread their God's will across the world. They can grow stronger, evolve, and even gain advanced classes like Apostle or Incarnation. For now, Nebula is excited to see what kind of sacred beast he'll end up creating. Cutting back to the lizard men. They refuse to waste the monster's corpse. They want to eat it, but the smell is absolutely vile. Zale takes one bite. And instantly regrets it. It tastes like straight-up trash. To save it, they decide to mix in other ingredients to make it edible. Even if it's nowhere near gourmet. Zale suggests adding aromatic plants and roasting it over fire, so the stench burns away. They go with her idea. And when Rack takes a bite, he freezes. It's actually not that bad. Zale explains the technique. It's called cooking. She used fragrant grass and fire to change the meat. Seeing how effective this is, Rack insists on learning how to do it himself. As they keep eating, Zale casually mentions the orc chief has an heir. That sparks a thought. Rack should probably take a mate too. Bro's brain blue screens instantly. Zale stays dead serious, pointing out their aging and need a next generation. As Rack sinks deep into thought, Zale straight up says she's willing to be his mate. Just as Rack's about to respond, something shiny behind her catches his eye. It's some kind of ancient artifact. It used to be attached to the structure on the monster's back. Yuri the goofball tries to eat it, then immediately realizes it's not food. The Wanderer explains it's metal, specifically gold. Zale says she's seen something like it before when the blacksmith showed her metals. When polished, it reflects light beautifully, never rusts, never decays. Among humans, it's extremely valuable. But to Yuri it just sounds heavy, useless, and not edible. Speaking of food, the Wanderer suggests Yuri hunt deer nearby, horned beasts with sweet, tender meat. According to the orcs, a herd should be close. Yuri lights up and heads out immediately, while Rack stays behind, still fixated on the metal. Sometime later, dusk settles in, and instead of eating the hunted deer in front of him, Rack is still lost in thought. If gold never decays, why would someone make a tablet out of something time can't erase? What message were they trying to preserve? Zale returns and says the entire tribe is ready to sleep. Rack's surprised she found him when he told no one where he was. Turns out she spotted him because of the fur clothes he's wearing, which were actually her idea in the first place. Perfect attire for a chieftain. Night falls, and the deer in front of Rack starts to rot. Yet he's still sitting there, obsessed with the tablet's meaning. Suddenly, he notices fireflies tracing glowing paths in the air, forming symbols. At first, Rack is stunned by the strange sight. But illusion or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is the fireflies' patterns match the markings on the tablet. Rack finally has his breakthrough. The tablet represents something eternal, something that can't decay or be erased by time. And now he knows what that is. He stays up all night deciphering the symbols. As dawn breaks, he rushes straight to Zale, waking her up to show what he's discovered. Let me spoil it for you, bro just invented written language. He draws a symbol with a twig to represent a male lizard man. Then another symbol beside it for a female lizard man. After that, he draws an equal sign between them, showing the male and female are companions. And get this, Rack didn't just draw those symbols randomly. He's actually using them to tell her he accepts her proposal and sees her as his companion and mate. By now, Zale has picked up enough of the language too. She draws a circle around the symbols, hoping Rack understands what that means. Turns out, the chieftain knows exactly what it implies. And so do we. This is how Nebula's civilization discovers written language. Honestly, that's a massive achievement. Though it'll take generations before it evolves into anything complex. Anyway, now that Rack has chosen his mate, it's time for the wedding ritual. For that, both the male and female must hunt the largest animal they can find and present it to each other. And yeah, it looks like Zale already outdid Rack with her catch. Nebula, meanwhile, is just relieved. Succession is finally secured. We then cut back to the monster's corpse, now completely dissected. Rack is speaking with the orc chief. The orc straight up starts tearing up when Rack tells him the lizardmen won't claim this land, meaning the orcs can keep living here as they always have. The orc chief thanks Rak deeply for killing the monster and sparing their home. Overwhelmed with gratitude, the orc chief introduces his son and appoints him as their guide, since he knows the area inside out. According to the orcs, the lands ahead are packed with massive beasts and much larger tribes living close together. Still, they believe a leader like Rak will overcome anything in his way. As Rak and his group scout the deep forest, they notice strange footprints on the ground. When the wanderer examines them closely, he identifies them as frogmen tracks, creatures capable of walking upright. Some frogmen are peaceful, but that's rare. These tracks show signs of proper reconnaissance and combat awareness. Based on the number of footprints, at least 5 frogmen scouted the area, meaning their tribe likely outnumbers the lizardmen. After scouting, they return to camp, and night has already fallen. Most of the lizardmen are sent out to patrol different zones. This creates the illusion that their numbers are far greater than they really are. Zale also suggests increasing patrols and night watches. A few days pass, and it seems the plan worked. No frogmen encounters at all. During that time, Rak's tribe focuses heavily on survival. They double down on livestock farming, and the quality and durability of their shelters improve dramatically. Out of everything, what impresses Nebula the most is how fast the lizardmen adapt to written symbols. Using crude maps and combining characters with hunting signs, they rapidly grasp the idea of recorded language. On top of that, Rak orders daily harvest records. These public records spark competition, pushing everyone to outperform each other. As for Nebula, his locust swarm in the continent's center keeps growing, and the southern insect nest is expanding too. Thanks to this, his insect dominion reaches level 4. For context, Nebula originally had only 3 insect swarms, which he used to influence the environment. Nebula is genuinely proud of this progress. Normally, no player would dare push growth this fast, but Nebula could. That's because his starting location was an isolated eastern region, letting him grow without interference from rival players or major species early on. But this is only the beginning, just the tip of the iceberg. Far greater dangers lie ahead, ones no one can even imagine yet. Cutting back to Rak. Yuri suddenly rushes in with urgent news that can't wait. The frogmen have arrived. Not long after, we finally meet the frogs face to face. On our side, the upper ranks are present to deal with these unexpected visitors. Right away, the first thing Rak notices is a lizard man standing among the frogmen, which makes absolutely no sense to him. Anyway, the top figure of the frogmen steps forward and introduces himself as Shunan, son of the great chief Oloi. He gets straight to the point. They have no intention of fighting. Rak is caught off guard by Shunan's politeness. He responds respectfully, introducing himself as Rak, chieftain of his tribe, and says he also has no desire to raise weapons. With introductions done, Shunan explains why they're here. This land, according to him, belongs to the frogmen, and the lizardmen have crossed into it. Naturally, Rak pushes back. How could all this land belong to one tribe? There are no borders or markings anywhere. That said, Rak makes it clear he has no intention of invading anyone's territory and offers an apology. However, he also calmly explains that they'll be staying for now, since they have nowhere else to go. Rak then smoothly takes control by flattering the son of Chief Oloi. Just a few well-placed words, and Shunan softens, accepting Rak's stance. Behind Shunan stand 2 massive figures, silent and expressionless. Clearly, they're there to make sure Shunan doesn't do anything reckless. But that lizard man among the frogmen still puzzles Rak, though he knows he'll find out soon enough. So he extends a sincere invitation to the honored son of Chief Oloi for a feast. After all, 2 tribes resolving things peacefully is reason enough to celebrate. Shunan is about to accept, but stumbles when one of the big guys whispers something to him. He politely declines, saying trust hasn't been built yet. Rak presses gently, saying it's against lizardman custom to send away a benefactor without kindness. At the very least, he suggests sharing a meal right here if entering the village feels unsafe. When the big guy nods in approval, Shunan agrees. That's how Rak gets his chance. Sharing sizzling meat with the chief's son gives him the perfect opening to learn more. about the relationship between the frogman and that lizard man traveling with them. Still, Rack avoids asking directly, knowing it would reveal too much curiosity. Instead, he eases into it, starting with a casual question: what do the feathers around Shunan's neck mean? They're feathers from a cockatrice. Of course, Rack has no clue what that is. Shunan takes the bait and explains. Cockatrices are dangerous creatures living in nearby forests. They walk on two legs, are massive in size, and worse, they're venomous with lightning-fast reflexes. That's why frogman scouts patrol this area, making sure none wander too close. Hearing how nasty they sound, Rack asks what weapons the frogmen used to deal with them. Javelins, maybe? But to Shunan, javelins are trash, completely useless. He calls over his pale white lizard man companion and orders him to bring a bow and arrows, a weapon Rack has never even heard of. After a short while, the pale lizard man returns with the weapon. He's then told to set up a wooden plank against a tree as a target. Once everything is ready, Shunan looses his first arrow. It lands dead center on the target. Rack praises both the weapon and Shunan's insane accuracy. Shunan says he's not trying to brag, but yeah, he's one of the best archers in his tribe. They've trained with bows since childhood. Bro is starving for validation and eats up every compliment Rack gives him. Next, our chieftain says he wants to try the weapon himself. The frogmen happily hand it over. Rack messes with it for a bit, figuring out how it works. Even then, he can tell right away, this thing is leagues better than javelins. Easy to carry ammo, crazy speed, ridiculous accuracy. Rack fires a few shots, but every single one misses. Shunan then tells his lizard man companion, his name's Owen, by the way, to go retrieve the arrows. Owen dashes forward to collect them. Rack insists on picking them up himself since he fired them. Obviously, that's just an excuse to talk to Owen out of earshot. As Rack crouches beside him, the first thing he notices is how nervous Owen looks. When Rack asks why he's with the frogmen, Owen answers hesitantly. He claims lizardmen and frogmen actually live together, and both sides benefit. To Rack, that sounds ridiculous. But Owen doubles down, saying they truly live in harmony. Rack asks how that even works. Owen explains, the frogmen provide protection, while the lizardmen handle labor. Frogmen dive and explore underwater, lizardmen climb and gather fruits. They trade what the other can't get, making life easier for both. Rack argues lizardmen don't need protection. But Owen reminds him how deadly this forest really is. Only Aloy's tribe, the largest in the forest, can survive here. Without frogmen help, lizardmen barely made it. Rack decides he's heard enough. He firmly orders Owen to pretend this conversation never happened. Later, the lizardmen serve steamed deer ribs to their guest, Shunan. The moment he takes a bite, his face lights up like a kid discovering candy. He's eaten deer before, but never seasoned like this. He's completely sold, and Rack twists the knife further. He casually brings up buffalo meat. Shunan perks up instantly. Buffalo is rare. He hasn't had fresh meat like that in ages. Rack even hints they have one back at camp. But then Shunan's massive guard shoots him a death glare, forcing him to decline under pressure. Rack, being petty, pushes Shunan's FOMO even harder. Shunan says he'll visit eventually, just after more trust is built. Luckily, Aloy's tribe isn't hostile toward lizardmen. And Owen, along with others living with frogmen, proves that. Shunan calls Owen over and asks him to explain how the tribes have been helping each other all this time. Owen starts reciting a story like it's straight from a script. Rack sees through it immediately. Every word is rehearsed, prepared for this exact situation. As dusk paints the land yellow, Shunan decides to head back. He enjoyed the meeting and thanks Rack sincerely. When Rack invites him to visit again, Shunan politely declines, just as expected. The representatives of both tribes wave at each other before going their separate ways. That's when we notice Shunan suddenly turning extremely harsh on Owen. A detail Rack definitely doesn't miss. He can tell right away the lizardmen aren't actually on good terms with the frogmen. Once Shunan returns to his village, he and his men start beating the hell out of Owen. Turns out Shunan realized Owen spoke with the lizardmen chieftain earlier, and demands to know every word they exchanged. The poor lizardman stumbles over his words, desperately trying to lie, claiming he only gave the chieftain advice on becoming a better archer. That lame excuse just gets him beaten harder, because Owen can't even shoot an arrow himself, so how was he tutoring anyone? But Owen sticks to his story, insisting that telling the truth would have made the chieftain suspicious. That's why Owen says he demanded payment for lessons, and the chieftain admitted he had nothing valuable to offer. Eventually, Shunan buys the story and even starts respecting Owen for his sharp bargaining skills. Because Owen did such a great job, Shunan promises to spare his offspring, who was supposed to be sacrificed today. You see, these frogmen are holding a large number of lizardmen captive, all of them meant to be sacrifices. That's exactly why Owen obeys every order Shunan gives him. He's fully prepared to deceive Rak and his entire tribe. Later that night, Owen sits by the edge of the pond, thinking about the horrible choices that led him here. He regrets not seeing the frogmen's true nature sooner. They lured the lizardmen in while pretending to be kind. By now, most of the lizardmen who lived here have already been sacrificed, and the remaining 200 don't dare oppose 1,500 frogmen. Not only do the frogmen vastly outnumber them, they also worship a so-called god. A horrifying two-headed monster that can devour anything in a single strike. That creature is the one truly ruling the frogmen, and by extension, ruling the lizardmen as well. Owen is convinced the black-scaled lizardman chieftain he met is genuinely powerful. But even so, his tribe only has around 600 members and no real weapons, so Owen plans to lure them here to be sacrificed first. That way, his own people get a little more time to live, and he'll do anything to keep his son alive, even if it means dragging another tribe into this nightmare. The next day arrives, and Yuri is out here flexing the water buffalo, making Shunan absolutely lose his mind. Rak doesn't miss the chance to brag either. Now that Shunan has seen the buffalo with his own eyes, Rak proposes trading it for a weapon called a bow. That's when Owen steps in, insisting both tribes visit each other's villages before any major trade, promising to gift the bow later as goodwill. Several days pass like this. Rak and Zale test the bow they recreated themselves, but for some reason, it can't shoot arrows very far. Rak is convinced the issue lies with the bowstring. They just haven't figured out which creature's tendons to use. We then learn the next meeting with the frogmen will be the 5th one, and it's coming up soon, with the frogmen acting overly eager to learn more, which feels suspicious to Rak. He's sure they're hiding something dangerous behind fake friendliness, but he can't pinpoint it yet. Looks like it's finally time to put Owen to work and test his loyalty. We cut back to the frogmen. They're busy choking Owen again. They're furious they haven't made any progress getting close to the tribe, despite following his advice. Owen admits the black-scaled chieftain is far more cautious and cunning than he expected, but regardless, Shunan orders Owen to speed things up. Chief Alloy has given them a deadline to deliver the sacrifices, and they absolutely cannot afford to fail. Owen demands to know why the deadline is so strict. In his head, he's sure they're hiding something huge, something he needs to hear. So he straight up asks Shunan about it. Shunan explains that his father and the elders are falling seriously ill, so delaying the sacrifices isn't an option. A disease is spreading, causing unbearable itching that only keeps getting worse. Shunan admits no lizardman should ever hear this, but he's making Owen an exception. He emphasizes just how deadly this illness really is. Once infected, a frogman's skin doesn't just itch, it gets covered in a sticky white mucus. That mucus can't be wiped off and keeps spreading. Eventually it blocks breathing and suffocates the victim. One priest has already died from it. Owen is shocked Shunan would reveal something this classified to a lizard man. The only explanation he can think of is that Shunan is testing him. So he hides his emotions, and promises he'll never leak this information to the lizard men. If they learn the truth, they'd realize the frogmen are actually weak, and that would spark a rebellion. Still, Owen knows secrets like this won't stay buried forever, so he suggests spreading rumors that the illness also infects lizard men. To make it believable, he adds that certain grasses produce white foam when crushed, perfect for faking the mucus. Owen even volunteers to pretend to be the first infected victim. With that plan in place, Shunan once again praises Owen's sharp mind. But he also reminds him to use that same intelligence to lure the black-scaled lizard men here. Only then will Owen's son be spared from sacrifice. The cornered lizard man is overwhelmingly grateful for such mercy. As Shunan starts walking away after laying everything out, Owen stops him and asks for a batch of bows to use against the black-scaled lizard men. But it's obvious Shunan isn't willing to hand over such precious weapons. The next day arrives, and the frogmen bring plenty of gifts for the lizardmen. Rak shows up with a massive stockpile of herbs that relieve itching. He hopes this will be enough to trade for at least one bow. As expected, Shunan refuses. To him, trust matters more than anything when it comes to weapons. Rak is clearly sick of hearing that same excuse on repeat. Finally, he agrees to strengthen trust between both tribes, just as the great son of Olo wants. But first, he asks for a private talk with Owen. Soon, Owen and the chieftain walk far enough away to speak freely. Owen starts repeating the same rehearsed story. He talks about how gray and brown-scaled lizard men once performed a brotherhood ritual with the frogmen before uniting. That ritual involved spending long periods studying each other, which is why Rak must share everything about his tribe first. Only then will Owen reveal everything about the frogmen. It's time to drop the caution and truly bond. Right then, familiar blue butterflies appear, one even landing on Owen. Rak instantly understands the message from his god. He agrees with Owen without hesitation. Yes, it's time to stop being so guarded. Rak is ready to tell Owen everything he wants to know. Sometime later, Shunan and his group return to their village. This time, Shunan is ecstatic. They've gathered a huge amount of intel on the black-scaled lizard men. What excites him most is that they finally convinced those fools to visit their village. Even better, those same fools willingly gave Shunan a full tour of their own home. Now the frogmen know exactly where the lizardmen village is and how many warriors they have. Shunan doesn't hesitate to give Owen all the credit, saying he helped them gain the upper hand over the tribe, and Owen feels flattered hearing that. Though he cautiously reminds Shunan about the promise he made. Of course, that sly toad remembers the promise perfectly well, though I seriously doubt he plans on keeping it. As dusk creeps in like always, Owen sits by the pond, excited by the thought of living with his child again like before. As for Rak and his village, Owen believes the chieftain's own ignorance will eventually be his downfall. To understand exactly what they talked about, we rewind slightly. Rak is teaching Owen the idea of symbols and characters. He draws symbols with a twig and explains them. The cross means refusal, and the other symbol means lie. Owen, being sharp, understands almost instantly. Not only that, he combines the symbols, forming a new meaning. Lie plus cross becomes no lie, which represents truth. Rak is genuinely impressed by how fast Owen learned it. Even he never thought of using symbols like that. The praise reminds Owen of Shunan, who also constantly compliments his intelligence. Still, Owen wonders why Rak is teaching him writing when it's never mentioned during frogmen meetings. It's like Rak can read his thoughts. He explains he's teaching this because he wants to build trust. Not with the frogmen, but with Owen himself. Rak already knows much of what he's been told about the frogmen isn't true, and that Owen is forbidden from sharing certain things. Rak and his people have suffered before, which is why they can recognize suffering in others. He knows how to tell predator from prey, and he's already realized Owen and his people are the prey. Rak can see it, and almost smell it, etched across Owen's face. Even so, the young lizard man keeps denying everything. But the chieftain knows the truth. Back in the present, Owen reflects on his situation. He knows the black-scaled chieftain is strong and confident, but believes he stands no chance against frogmen weapons. Rak's claim of killing an abomination sounds absurd to Owen, especially when they don't even have special weapons. On top of that, Rak was foolish enough to teach him their symbols. Owen feels unworthy of that trust. He sees himself as nothing more than a negotiator, someone who only looks out for his own benefit. The next day arrives, and Rak finally visits the frogman village. Shunan welcomes his new friends with open arms. After the greetings are finished, Rack apologizes for arriving fully armed, saying he feared running into a cockatrice on the way. Shunen has no objections. In his mind, he thinks these lizard men are idiots for believing primitive spears could hurt a cockatrice. Besides, he doesn't plan to fight them. He plans to poison them during the feast. Rack scans the area, searching for Owen. Shunen explains he's busy preparing for the banquet. They soon spot him arranging seats, and Shunen notices Owen scratching symbols into the ground with a twig. He doesn't suspect anything. He assumes Owen is marking seating positions and gestures for Rack to greet him, while he goes to check on the food. As Rack approaches, Owen points to the markings, pretending they show where the lizardmen should sit, but the symbol he carved actually means lie. Rack understands instantly and signals Yuri to begin. And just like that, the real banquet begins. Yuri plants his feet and takes his stance. Then hurls the spear with all his strength, killing an armed frogman instantly. Rack immediately orders his warriors to wipe out the frogmen, kicking off a completely one-sided slaughter. Some time passes, and Rack's forces clear the entire area without losing a single fighter. Most of the frogmen have already fled, Shunen included. Next comes the real problem, the bowmen. Rack can only pray their backup plan works. He quickly turns to Owen and gives him a critical mission. One he absolutely cannot mess up. Cut to Shunen, grinding his teeth in pure rage, if he even has any. He's convinced this betrayal is all Owen's fault. He orders his men to gather every single warrior in the village. They must strike the lizard men immediately. As for the gray captive lizard men, they're ordered to stall Rack's forces until the frogmen are ready. Soon, the frogmen unleash a storm of arrows straight at the lizard men. But Rack saw this coming. The backup plan was shields. Every lizard man raises one, and the arrows bounce off like twigs hitting stone. Yuri loses his mind seeing the shields actually stop arrows. Shunen quickly switches tactics. He orders his men to fire only when the lizard men advance. But that plan collapses too, as thick smoke starts swallowing the entire battlefield, killing visibility for everyone. And the one spreading the fire and smoke? It's Owen, burning down the frogmen's homes. His fellow lizardmen stare in shock, thinking this must be Shunan's command. But Owen reveals the truth. He's acting on orders from the black-scaled chieftain. He begs them to trust him, just this once, promising that Rack will crush the frogmen. Slowly, his comrades grab torches as well and begin to burning everything around them. By the time Shunen realizes the settlement is engulfed in flames, it's already too late. For now, he orders a retreat, especially since the lizard men under their control have turned on them. They plan to return once their trump card, Warrior Oboe, arrives. But even Shunen isn't sure that'll be enough. He doesn't doubt Oboe's strength. He fears they may need more than raw power. That's when he considers seeking help from the fiend that lives in the waters. Meanwhile, Warrior Oboe receives word that Shunen is retreating to the lower village. The 10 warriors at the banquet hall and the 5 sent to investigate have all been slaughtered. Oboe counts the 5 warriors on the island and the 10 beside him. Altogether, they still have 45 warriors. That number gives him confidence. They still have the advantage. One frogman coats a spear with poisonous frog mucus and prepares to fire. But suddenly, the ground shakes. A freezing tension grips Oboe's chest. It's the same feeling he had when he faced the cockatrice. He knows something disastrous is coming. Soon after, the frogmen fire another volley of arrows. But their attack is completely useless against Manon the Drake. His sheer presence alone makes the frogmen tremble. Riding the beast is Zale, noticing just how massive Manon has grown. What's even funnier is that the arrows, their so-called ultimate weapon, are basically snacks for Manon. Anything that gets near his mouth gets eaten as he roars wildly. Ready to feast, these frogmen are about to become his buffet. Oboe realizes they're in deep trouble now that their strongest tactic failed. Even aiming for Manon's weak spots is pointless. The beast moves too fast. Then Manon lunges forward and bites down, crushing one opponent. A frogman obliterated by the sheer force of his jaws. At this point, Oboe knows for sure this monster is way beyond anything they can handle. Since nothing works against this apex predator, Old Boy decides to turn the creature's own strength against it. He hurls a poisonous toad straight at Manon, and just like expected, Manon swallows it whole. The other frogmen follow suit, throwing their poisonous toads at him. And Manon happily snaps them all up, left and right, making sure not a single dessert goes to waste. Meanwhile, Zale finds it weird that the enemy is basically feeding Manon snacks. Under Nebula's blessings, specifically one of the three, the lizard men have resistance to toxins. Old Boy realizes far too late that they've completely screwed themselves. Manon grins at his next snack, but before ripping Old Boy's head clean off his body. We then cut back to the burning settlement. One frogman tries to snipe Rack with a poisoned arrow, but the absolute Chad lizard just slices the arrow in half with a flick of his tail. Yuri follows up by smashing the sniper's skull, brains splattering everywhere, taking out the last enemy. No enemies remain. Shunan has already fled to the inner village on the island in the middle of the river. With the frogmen crushed, the grayish-brown lizard men begin turning on their former captors. Watching the chaos and devastation, Rack starts wondering why the frogman leader, Oloy, hasn't appeared yet. Turns out Nebula already handled that. He took care of Oloy off-screen. There's a virus with an insanely long name nobody can pronounce. What matters is that it's brutally lethal. By the time Rack left the Holy Land, Nebula had already located the disease hundreds of kilometers away. Using insects, he transported it all the way here. Once the great frogman leader, Oloy, became infected, he was no longer the mighty figure people feared. That dying madman performed countless ceremonies where he sacrificed innocent lizard men children to the two-headed fiend. He believed it was the only way to survive, that his illness could be cured. Cutting back to Rack and his forces, they've wiped out the frogmen in the area. That's when Owen comes sprinting over, begging Rack to cross the lake and reach the island. Young lizard men are about to be sacrificed to the two-headed fiend. As horrifying as that sounds, Rack points out Owen told him far too late. The frogmen have already sailed to the island. Trying to swim across now would be suicide. In the water, they'd be target practice for frogmen archers. Owen collapses in despair, hands clasped, eyes filled with desperation, begging Rack to save them. His son is there. The moment Rack hears about his son, he completely snaps and slaps Owen across the face. He screams at him for being a brain-dead fool and hiding this until now. Rack is furious that Owen never trusted him. If he had known earlier, he would have prepared to kill that so-called god already. Now, because of Owen's silence, his son may die for nothing. Even Owen starts regretting everything he's done. And just when it seems truly too late, the two-headed fiend finally answers the frogmen's ritual. The monster descends to claim its offerings. The frogmen chant their god's name with absolute devotion, begging it to accept their sacrifices. Oloy desperately prays for his god to wipe out the black-scaled lizard men threatening the lake. Meanwhile, Owen sits by the edge of the lake, powerless, able to do nothing but watch. As for Rack and Zale, they're busy sizing up the abomination. First thing they notice, the creature is slightly larger than the coleoptera they crushed with boulders. There's a chance they could beat it, but the odds are brutal, especially with the terrain working against them. Casualties would be unavoidable. Right then, Rack receives a signal from his god, and from this moment on, everything changes. Rack tells Owen to look ahead, to really look, and asks if he still doesn't believe in miracles. Standing before them is a gigantic praying mantis, a literal miracle from God. Cutting back to the delusional frogman leader worshipping the two-headed freak, he keeps begging the fiend to accept the lizard men as sacrifices. But it's obvious the fiend's attention has shifted to something else. When Oloy looks around, trying to see what caught the fiend's eye, he sees the massive mantis. The only word that forms in the terrified frogman's mind, after seeing it, is God. This thing is a literal god. Nebula created this being using the essence of an abomination. Other factors like Dominion Level 4, Divinity Level, and accumulated faith also played major roles. Without them, creating a sacred beast wouldn't have been possible, and Nebula knows very few players already have one. Meanwhile, the two-headed fiend lunges at the mantis, trying to bite it. But the mantis grabs the bastard's jaw with a bare hand. The monster thrashes wildly, and as it's tossed around, several frogmen are crushed under its massive body. The second head lunges. But the mantis shows zero mercy and slices it clean off. Blood sprays everywhere. The creature once worshipped as a god has learned a brutal truth. It's nothing more than a filthy rat. The mantis then decides to offer this pitiful creature to its almighty creator. With a single violent motion, it rips the remaining head from the body, ending the monster's miserable existence. With the two-headed fiend dead, the mantis stands tall, basking in victory. The lizard men erupt in cheers, while Owen can't hold back his tears. Gotta admit, the mantis entrance was insanely hype. Even Nebula agrees. Despite the fiend's high stats, it never even got to use its small dominion. As expected, defeating the two-headed fiend rewards Nebula with its essence. A new notification lets him claim the small dominion, though its nature is initially unknown. Only after claiming it does Nebula learn the dominion is seawater. Now it makes sense why the monster never used it. This place only has fresh water, making seawater useless here. Rivers would have been far more effective, but Nebula knows it'll be useful someday. We then cut back to Chief Aloy, who's completely stunned watching his god fall so easily. Seeing his father like this, Shunen finally understands the real reason behind the frogmen's collapse. It wasn't the disease that made them weak. It was blind devotion to the two-headed fiend. The tribe lowered its guard, stopped training, and trusted that god to protect them forever. Now they're nothing but cowards, unable to face real enemies. The great mantis delivers the news of the abomination's destruction to its creator. Nebula feels proud of his creation and allows it to rest until it's summoned again. The great mantis stands ready to emerge whenever its presence is needed. Meanwhile, Rak and his group notice the frogmen crossing the river toward the outer village. The village has been abandoned, giving Rak a chance to swim across and rescue the lizardmen children. With his voice booming and authority overflowing, Rak addresses the captives, declaring his victory over the frogmen. Anyone with the courage to join him can step forward now. Owen immediately steps forward, ready to help secure this victory. The other injured lizardmen gather their courage too, insisting on joining and finally recognizing Rak as their chieftain. But Rak orders the injured to stay back and rest. One brave lizardman speaks up, claiming he's a former warrior who knows when to fight and when to hold back. None of them feel pride in slaughtering frogmen civilians, but their hearts are burning again, burning to fight for themselves and reclaim their freedom. That fire was ignited by Rak and his people, by their refusal to fear frogmen warriors. Rak can tell the true fuel behind that fire is hatred and rage toward the frogmen. The former warrior admits it openly. It's time to release that hatred so the fire in their hearts can finally die out. They lost companions, children, grandchildren. Unless they return that pain to the frogmen, they'll never find peace. And honestly, that's exactly what Rak wants. He raises his voice again, letting it echo through the air as he fills them with resolve to take vengeance on those who brought them nothing but sorrow. Before moving forward, we cut slightly back in time, to when Shunen was helping Rak practice with the bow. Seeing how fast Rak learned, Shunen believed he'd soon rival frogmen warriors. At the time, Rak's biggest flaw was how long he took to fire an arrow. Rak argued that striking vital points mattered more than speed. That's when Shunen explained that real enemies move, and in real battles, speed matters just as much as accuracy. Keep that detail in mind, it's going to matter soon. After sharing more knowledge about the weapon, Rak continued learning rapidly. Shunen even promised to teach him how to make bows himself, but only once their bond deepened, assuring him the materials were easy for lizard men to obtain. Back then, Rak felt a strange chill when Shunen mentioned those materials. A dark feeling, one he would later understand directly from Shunen himself. I've got a strong hunch why Rak felt that shiver, but no spoilers. Right now, he's swimming toward the island with his warriors. Once they reach the shore, the gray-scaled lizard men rush toward their loved ones. Owen embraces his son Ian with everything he has. Rak orders Yuri to help evacuate the children. He tells the gray and brown-scaled lizardmen to move to the back of the outer village and distract the frogmen. From Yuri's perspective, it's clear, they're about to attack from both sides. Rack confirms it. Once the enemy is focused on the front, he'll cross the lake and strike from behind. Yuri worries about his chieftain, but Rack assures him it'll be fine, especially now that the frogmen's numbers are broken. On top of that, the lizard men have received another blessing. Their black scales shimmer like waves under moonlight. Cut to the frogman village. Chaos erupts as everyone panics and tries to flee. At that exact moment, Rack and his group storm in from the opposite side while Yuri's team is already causing havoc. Rack joins the slaughter without hesitation. The frogman chieftain desperately begs the two-headed fiend to appear and save him, after all the sacrifices he made. Rack silences him with a single spear straight through the head, killing him instantly. The one-sided massacre continues, swallowing every last frogman. Lizard men shout through the village, searching for Shunan, who is hiding inside a shack. In total shock, wondering how they could lose despite superior numbers and weapons. Shunan is finally found by Rack, a member of the Black Knights, who silently appears right behind him. Sensing someone there, Shunan freezes in terror and collapses to the ground. Rack orders him to stand up and pick up his weapon. He's giving Shunan one last chance to protect his honor as a warrior and die fighting. But Shunan is a coward, and to him, honor means nothing when death is staring him down. He instantly starts begging for his life, clinging to the time they spent together. He even offers to reveal the secret behind the materials used to make their bows. In fact, he's more than willing to expose the living beings they harvest tendons from for bowstrings. With a shaking voice, he admits those tendons came from lizard men. Shunan realizes too late that revealing something this horrific only made things worse. Rack calmly acknowledges Shunan's confession. And shockingly, he accepts the deal and lets Shunan walk away alive. After all, Rack holds no personal hatred toward him. With that, he coldly orders Shunan to run. The frogman doesn't hesitate and bolts straight into the forest. But the only reason Rack let him go was because he's a man of his word. Because he wanted a moving target to test his aim. The next day arrives, and a frogman corpse is found tied to a tree, serving as the perfect target dummy for the lizardman chieftain. Rack is testing the newly crafted bows. Each one fitted with bowstrings they managed to create themselves. The main issue is the string's durability. Pull just a bit too hard, and they snap. Owen admits there simply aren't stronger materials available right now. Rack already knows this, which is why he doesn't plan on staying here. Winter is coming, and to feed the buffalo they're raising, they'll need to move somewhere warmer. Seeing Owen wearing his warrior mask, Rack assumes he went hunting today too. Owen confirms it proudly, saying he wiped out all the remaining frogmen nearby. For now, they won't need to worry about bowstring materials. At least for a while. We then glimpse the past. Back when Shunan was shot in the foot and stumbled. The gray lizard men were ready to kill him on the spot. And the one who stepped up was Owen. Determined to kill that filthy toad with his own hands. Aloy, the frogman chief, met the same fate as his son, though he couldn't save him. By now, his bones are probably decorating someone's head, just like Shunan's bones now decorate Owen's. Just as Owen is about to explain something important, Zale arrives and notices a child sneaking behind a tree. She startles the kid on purpose and asks if he came to speak with the chief. That's when she notices a small wooden statue the child drops. When Rack sees it, he instantly recognizes it as their guardian. Everyone's shocked that a child so young could craft something so detailed. The kid lights up with joy after the praise and says he was planning to gift it to Chief Rack. Zale explains that kids in the village often make these figures, and every child has one. The boy proudly says his statue represents their guardian. A massive being that saved them from the two-headed fiend. Rack likes the idea. If everyone has a guardian figure, they'll feel safer and more confident, so he suggests making one for all. Returning to the conversation, Rack asks Owen what he was about to say earlier. The gray lizard man explains they found something strange inside the cave the frogmen were hiding in. He then leads everyone toward that tunnel. Once they reach the cave, they head inside without hesitation. All the frogmen who came here are already dead, meaning no one else knows about this place for now. Suddenly, they come across a massive stone wheel covered in intricate carvings. It's insane to imagine someone carving such hard stone with that level of precision. What's even crazier is that the markings resemble the same Coleoptera creature they once crushed with boulders. Even Nebula isn't sure what this is. At first glance, he can only assume they've stumbled onto some kind of ancient ruin. In Perished World, ancient ruins are scattered everywhere. Each one holds its own knowledge or treasures, and if they're lucky, they might find items with incredible power, or terrifying, demonic effects. But in an era where civilization is still primitive, ancient knowledge isn't always as useful as it sounds. Basically, primitive nomads can't even tell what the hell this thing is supposed to be. Plus, ruins that create or alter special materials or grant blessings only work in their native region, and for a nomadic guy like Rak, that makes them completely useless. There's a slim chance this could be a unique relic, though Nebula really hopes it's not demonic, otherwise they're screwed. Just as they slide past the massive stone slab, they hear electricity spiraling and humming, like it's trying to speak to them. An unknown entity welcomes the intruders who dared enter the demonic world. The moment they step inside, the lizard men find themselves surrounded by winding stairways, spiraling endlessly downward. Instead of dealing with that mess, Rak suggests they just jump straight down. Before going further, they spot a swarm of rats blocking the path. But the way these things snarl doesn't feel like normal rats at all. Zale identifies them as nutria. They've eaten nutria before, but these are way bigger and clearly different. Another strange thing, nutria don't usually travel in groups or act aggressive. Maybe they're guarding this place. Because of that, Rak orders everyone to prepare for combat. The oversized rats leap at them, only to get skewered by spears and die instantly. After it's over, Rak feels bad seeing all that meat wasted and suggests eating them. Zale even floats the idea of taming these giant rats and farming them like buffalo. On that note, Owen suggests fish farming might be even better. Fish reproduce fast, lay eggs, and raise their own young. They could easily build a dam and trap them during hatching season. Suddenly, one lizard man gets electrocuted just from touching an injured nutria. Rak tries touching it himself, and gets shocked too. Turns out these nutria are actually infused with a demonic lightning attribute, shocking enemies on contact. Looks like Nebula's worst fear just came true. This really is a demonic ruin, though lightning is considered a weaker demonic attribute. If Rak reaches the end of this ruin, he can obtain that power. But gaining it won't make him a mage instantly. Demonic power grows over generations, meaning future descendants would become true mages. There's another problem. In Perished World, divine power and magic are fundamentally opposed. According to the original lore, magic doesn't come from gods but from an ancient evil, so high-level mages don't rely on gods at all. They build power independently. As magic spreads, faith in gods declines, which is why most players avoid the magic route. There is a loophole players can exploit, but it creates way too many complications. Anyway, back to Rak. Because now the demonic relic begins tempting its target. A demonic entity appears, speaking to Rak through telepathy. It asks whether Rak desires this power, offering it freely. Since no one else can see it, Zale notices Rak spacing out and suggests retreating. But Rak says he's fine and orders everyone to keep killing the rats. By now, Rak realizes he's the only one who can see this being. Through telepathy, he asks the obvious question, who it is. The entity claims to be the guardian spirit of this place, visible only to those with great power. Naturally, Rak questions what power it means. He also notices that while they can communicate wordlessly, they can't read each other's deeper thoughts. Meanwhile, Nebula considers warning Rak about the dangers of demonic magic. But he stops when he notices a new stat on Rak's profile. An attribute called Deception. Nebula has no idea when it appeared. His best guess is that Rak gained it while dealing with Shunan's lies and schemes. That gives Nebula a bit of reassurance, so he decides to leave the choice entirely up to Rak. Back with the entity, it explains more about the electricity attribute. A power that can burn all life with searing heat, shining like the blazing sun. Rak can claim this power if he wants, and at first, he sees no reason to refuse, until the spirit brings up a condition. Sensing a trap, Rak immediately turns it down. Power like this is never free. The spirit panics and tries to smooth things over, saying the condition isn't that hard. Once again, Rack shows his disappointment. If there was going to be an exchange, it should have been said from the start. Still, he agrees to listen, but warns the spirit to stop dancing around the truth. He wants everything laid out clearly. If anything is hidden, the conversation ends right there. Right then, Zale interrupts to say they're ready to move. Rack tells her to go on ahead while he finishes up. The spirit finally lays out its terms. It's been sealed inside this ruin and can't move freely. It wants Rack to go deeper and kill the ruin guard protecting the seal. Once freed, it promises to grant all its power. Before agreeing, Rack asks one thing: will he gain the same shocking power those rats had? The spirit confirms it again, calling the power electricity. Right now it only appears as sparks, but with use it grows stronger, eventually becoming full lightning. With enough growth, Rack could even reach power rivaling a god. But the power is too much for one person alone. So Rack could either share it with the tribe or monopolize it through a ritual. Rack understands all that, but one question still bothers him. How did something this powerful end up sealed away? According to the spirit, that very power caused its downfall. People fear what they don't understand, so they seal away anything they see as a threat. Rack finds it ironic that the spirit openly admits it's dangerous. Now he's certain something is being hidden, either the power is exaggerated, or the cost is far worse than the reward. It would be easier if the spirit just came clean, because Rack hates complications. So he decides to leave and collapse the cave entrance forever. The spirit panics and begs, promising to reveal everything. It claims to be descended from beings that once ruled the world long ago. The so-called ancient demons, erased by time. Even the gods are so old they've forgotten their origins, and the spirit is the same. It only knows it's been sealed forever. Power with unknown origins is seductive, but Rack isn't stupid enough to fall for it. He remembers the Blue Lizard Leader and the Frogman Chief, perfect examples of power corrupting everything. Demonic magic is the worst offender. What makes it even scarier is that this stingray-like spirit can give power to anyone. Good intentions or evil ones, it doesn't care. Gods choose who they bless. But this spirit's power can fall into the hands of anyone, even the unworthy. Worse still, those who wield it can keep growing stronger until they reject the gods completely. To prevent that future, Rack considers taking all the power for himself. It's dangerous, yes, but undeniably useful for what's coming. In the end, Rack agrees to free the stingray under one major condition. First, only his tribe can wield this power. Second, the power must appear as though it comes from the gods, so faith doesn't weaken. In fact, faith should only grow stronger. The final condition is that the stingray itself must begin believing in Rack's god. Naturally, the stingray thinks the idea is absolutely ridiculous. For a being older than the god Rack follows, believing in another deity feels downright unnatural, especially when gods usually despise demonic spirits. But Rack shuts that assumption down immediately, saying his god isn't some ordinary deity. The blue insect god rewards beings with value, and since the stingray is clearly useful, Rack believes his god would already approve. Still, the stingray hesitates, unsure if the god Rack speaks of would truly accept it so easily, but Rack promises that if it agrees, his god is benevolent enough to make an exception. That's when the stingray reveals a hidden truth. Not only is it sealed in this ruin, it's also the absolute ruler of this place. Everything here, from the creatures to the ruined guardian Rack defeated, were nothing more than its minions. This whole ordeal was just a test of Rack's strength. For that, the entity apologizes. Rack accepts the apology without hesitation, since he understands its perspective. He knows the spirit longs to escape this cursed place and witness the beauty of the outside world. Eventually, the entity asks for Rack's name. The lizard man proudly tells him. With that, the test finally ends, and the stingray prepares to grant Rack the power he has earned. Almost instantly, Nebula receives a notification about a spirit wishing to become his subject. Once he accepts, Nebula gains dominion over demonic magic, specifically electricity, and Nebula is more than satisfied with how things turned out. Forcing demonic magic to submit under divinity is the only way to wield it without penalty, and Rak handled it perfectly. 9 years pass, and the scene shifts to the lizardman's altar. By now, word has spread that the blue insect god granted Rak the power of thunder and lightning. A human listens as tales of the great Rak are passed down. The storyteller is a lizardman admirer, and the human can't grasp why an insect god would grant lightning powers. The lizardman offers a simple explanation: imagine the color of thunder, blue, just like their god. Even then, the human still looks confused. So he drops the topic and introduces himself as Hui. Right as Hui asks for the lizardman's name, their introductions are cut short. Down the hill, unwanted visitors appear. Creatures known as nulls. The lizardman asks Hui if he can identify them. Maybe they're subordinates of Sao Chai. Hui studies them carefully and realizes they look poorly armed, careless, and almost defenseless, like wandering gnolls. The lizardman praise Hui for his sharp observation. Then the hooded lizardman lowers his hood, revealing himself as Owen, as he aims and fires an arrow. Lightning erupts, frying the gnolls instantly. The display is more than enough proof that he's one of the chosen ones. The surviving gnolls panic and flee, while Owen announces his name, leaving. Hui completely stunned. It's Owen, the legendary storyteller. Owen looks drained after using his power, and suggests continuing the talk once he catches his breath. A short while later, he's seen calmly smoking a long pipe. They say chosen ones always do that after using their abilities. After a few puffs, Owen feels refreshed and resumes the conversation. Hui finally asks the question on his mind: why does someone this powerful still serve another? He's not suggesting betrayal. But why live such a harsh, wandering life alone in the wild? Owen exhales another puff of smoke, hinting cryptically that there's more to his reasons. He calls himself a sinner, someone who once betrayed his own people, yet was still given a chance to atone. By spreading stories and written characters, he carries the name of the blue insect god and chief Rak across the continent, choosing this life as his path to redemption. And so far, it's clearly working. In this region, everyone knows the black-scaled tribe, and Rak, the high priest chief, is deeply respected. As the conversation continues, Owen asks if the man is also a wanderer like him. The man introduces himself as someone from Automation Castle. It's a name Owen has never heard before. The man explains his purpose. He's searching for the black-scaled tribe to deliver a message from the Lord of Automation Castle. Surprisingly, this works out perfectly for Owen. He lets out a sharp whistle. A massive bird answers the call. It swoops back down to its master. Naturally, the man is stunned to see such a notorious creature so perfectly tamed. Completely under control. Owen corrects him, explaining it's called a cockatoo, a hybrid between a cockatrice and a chicken. He jumps onto the bird's back and motions for the man to climb on too. Owen is already heading to see Rak anyway, giving the man a chance to meet the black-scaled tribe himself. In return, Owen wants him to listen to the untold stories of the blue insect god and the saga of the great Rak. The scene shifts to the black-scaled tribe, marching steadily down the road ahead. Yuri steps forward with troubling news for his chieftain. The stargazer is near death and has asked to speak with Rak one last time. Rak immediately orders the march to stop, and decides they'll camp here for the night. If the stargazer says his end is near, then it truly is. After all, he's proven himself the greatest clairvoyant among them, and preparations for his funeral must begin. Tonight will be one of the heaviest nights Rak has ever faced. Cutting to the camp where the stargazer rests, Rak enters and is met by the nurse. She explains just how dire the old man's condition has become before leaving them alone. The stargazer is so weak that even keeping his eyes open feels like a burden. In his final moments, he reflects on his life. Wandering unknown lands, learning forbidden truths, losing an arm, and being cast aside until he met Rak. He used his knowledge of the stars to guide others, and now, he has reached the turning point of his life. The moment when every lizard man must surrender to eternal sleep to escape the weight of time. But before that, he's grateful to spend his final moments with his chieftain. He asks Rak a question no one else could answer. The ultimate question: what awaits people after death? Since Rak was chosen by their god, the most favored among them, only he could respond. Why is death called eternal sleep? Do the dead dream forever, or suffer endless nightmares? Rack admits honestly that he doesn't know how to answer something so profound, nor why he's expected to. The stargazer recalls how the beetle god always guided them when they were lost. Perhaps the god will do the same after death. Maybe he even guides lost souls. Rack finds himself agreeing. Just as the beetle god guided them through mortal dust, he'll guide them beyond it as well. The stargazer believes this without a shred of doubt. He wants to understand the afterlife so he doesn't meet their god unprepared. Rack says maybe it's better that way. He imagines the afterlife as an endless grassland with no horizon, where you can run forever. Wind whispering peace, soft grass underfoot, stones to rest on, and skies that change with every season. The stargazer quietly hopes that, in the afterlife, he'll have a place of his own too, somewhere he can always return to when he's worn out. He doesn't want some flimsy tent that gets wiped out by one strong gust of wind. He wants a real house, something solid he can truly settle into. The stargazer's always hated tents, which is kind of funny, because right now, he's resting inside one. Still, no complaints. Soon enough, his soul will find somewhere to belong. But one question lingers in his mind: will the afterlife sky still have stars? Rack reassures him, saying the god is thoughtful like that. He says there's no way the god wouldn't put stars in the sky, so everyone can always find their way home. And right at that moment, Rack notices something. Those familiar blue butterflies, a clear sign the god is watching them. The god has come to claim the stargazer's soul. Once his soul is taken, the old lizard man finally drifts into eternal rest. No longer bound to the mortal world. Now it's time for Nebula to create the afterlife his people have been longing for. The system notifies him that all conditions are met, giving him the option to begin creating the afterlife. He has the resources, the levels, the faith, and the authority to do exactly as he wishes. And more than enough stored souls to trigger the birth of the afterlife. See, the afterlife is a massive mechanic in this game. Building a good one drastically boosts your chances of winning, rewarding noble lives like opening heaven's gates. And punishing sinners too. It can shape morals, enforce ethics, or even become a training ground for warriors. Like Valhalla. This game even lets you send fallen warriors back to the real world, turning them into hidden trump cards for future wars. Nebula finally releases all the butterflies, each one representing the soul of the departed, allowing them to settle into the afterlife, a place known as the primordial prairie. On this endless grassland, the stargazer rests. And for the first time here, he opens his eyes. He can feel everything around him, and realizes this isn't his imagination. This isn't a dream. This is the afterlife, the very prairie he and Rack once imagined together. Even if it doesn't have stone mounds to sit on or a solid house to live in. But honestly, there's no need to be greedy. He doesn't even feel like he needs a house anymore. This place is perfect, an incredible gift anyone would treasure. And he's not alone. The other lizard men are here too, sleeping peacefully. Since he's the only one awake, he chooses not to wake them and lets them rest. Among them, there's also a child, a young lizard man who looks strangely familiar to him. If memory serves him right, a disaster once struck when the Goblin Alliance launched a surprise attack, slaughtering many from the lizardmen tribe. Those sneaky bastards had united their clans, and deliberately targeted only the children and the elderly. Stargazer was one of the elders too. He truly believed they were finished when the enemy closed in. But then, a single young lizard man stepped forward, weapon in hand, ready to protect the ones he loved. He was one of the kids Stargazer had taught arithmetic and numbers to. That child understood the situation and knew how to minimize losses, all thanks to what he'd learned. He was brave enough to charge straight toward his own death for the sake of everyone else. At the funeral held for the warriors who never returned, Rack was furious. Everyone blamed Stargazer for teaching arithmetic, because now the warriors didn't hesitate to risk one life to save two. Even so, Rack could only cry in sorrow. The choice was logical, but in such a hopeless moment, all he felt was frustration. Because of that young man's sacrifice, he became the one who paved the way for other children to learn arithmetic. Either way, Stargazer is grateful to be reunited with this courageous soul. Sometime later, the Stargazer wanders through the prairie, wondering why they still haven't met their god. That's when he spots someone hiding behind a tree. Without hesitation, Stargazer starts chasing the mysterious figure, and the pursuit leads him straight to the stargazing laboratory. The wise lizard steps forward, his mind overflowing with countless thoughts. He wants to understand why their god is so kind, why they were the ones chosen, what makes them different from every other species out there. As he steps into the chamber, Stargazer spots a bizarre device sitting on a pedestal, with the entire ceiling glowing with countless stars. Curious, he climbs the stairs, realizing Rak was right. There really is a house built from stone and stars. As he approaches the machine, he leans in to take a closer look. A strange light spills out through the nozzle. And suddenly, he's staring at an entire galaxy with his own eyes. The Nebula Galaxy itself. This is the first time he's ever seen stars up close. And in that moment, his entire understanding of the universe shifts. If only he could share this knowledge with the people back in the real world. It would change everything. All the while, Nebula quietly watches Stargazer reach this realization. He wants Stargazer to see that he followed the path laid out for him perfectly. The afterlife isn't just a place for the dead. A god's beliefs shape the values of those who follow them. When Vikings die, they imagine Valhalla. Cultivators dream of a peach blossom spring. So when a scholar reaches the afterlife, it naturally becomes the birthplace of technological progress. Nebula is pleased. The afterlife is working exactly the way he envisioned. Especially now, since danger is closing in faster than ever. Right now, their biggest threat is the Clip Deer tribe, a group with advanced ironworking skills and the ability to tame the terrifying Gamchi beasts. Long story short, their tech level and military coordination are way ahead of the Black Scale tribe. The only reason they're this strong is probably because another player is backing them. Which means one thing: war is unavoidable, and Nebula needs to get ready. Across the map, players are slowly expanding their territories. To deal with this, Nebula has gone all in on his control over insects. At the moment, he commands 3 different insect swarms. The first is the locust swarm. Nebula simply calls it the swarm, and he uses it to quietly cripple players who depend on farming. Then there's the second one, the virus swarm, also called the host, which he already tested on the frogmen. These insects keep evolving new diseases. And finally, there's the nest, which breeds all kinds of insects and passively farms experience for him. All while Rak focuses on uniting the nearby tribes. At this pace, Nebula is confident it won't take long to dominate the southern peninsula. The first real obstacle in his expansion is the player controlling the Knoll tribe. Cutting back to the lizard men. Owen finally arrives at Rak's resting grounds, bringing Hui along with him. Owen isn't happy to hear that Stargazer has passed away. Stargazer was so well known that even Hui recognizes the name, and he wonders if coming today was a mistake. Owen reassures him, it's fine. To the Black Scale tribe, travelers joining a funeral are considered a good sign. It just means there's one more person to share the grief. The funeral ceremony begins, with Rak standing at the front. Owen and his human companion take part in the ceremony as well. Hui immediately spots the great leader of the Black Scale tribe, the chieftain, standing there with tears streaming down his face. This completely catches him off guard. He didn't expect the chieftain to cry so openly. His reaction makes Owen wonder if humans are just bad at expressing grief. Hui explains that humans do cry. They're just taught to hold it back in public. Crying is seen as weakness, and dignity must be preserved. Dignity is something Owen has heard of, but he makes sure Hui never teaches that idea to the lizard men. He believes the lizard men have something far deeper than dignity. After the ceremony ends, Owen steps forward to greet his respected friend. Rak is glad Owen came to attend Stargazer's funeral. Then he notices the human Owen brought with him. Owen explains that the man is a messenger from the Automation Castle and formally introduces him to the chieftain. Then Owen leans in and quietly fills Rak in on all the important details about this visitor. Not long after, Rak sits across from the guest. Normally, a visitor would rest first, but Rak wants to get straight to the point. The human understands and starts the meeting by presenting a pouch. A gift from the Lord of the Automation Castle. Rak opens it and finds a chunk of rock salt inside. The human explains that rock salt is the Automation Castle's specialty. And this is the very first piece, given freely with no strings attached. From the way Hui chooses his words, Rak quickly realizes this is just the beginning, more will come later. The man confirms it. Only for Rak to casually crush the salt rock in his bare hand, grinding it into fine powder. He tells Hui to pass a message back to the Automation Castle. The gift was received. But the man asks why Rak destroyed it. The chieftain calmly says it was done to please his god. Apparently, sprinkling rock salt on the ground is a ritual that entertains their deity. Of course, the man knows Rak is messing with him. The conversation loops back and forth, until the message is crystal clear. This is Rak's polite way of saying he has zero interest in trading with the Automation Castle. Hui quickly realizes that Rak hates flowery diplomacy. So he switches tactics and goes straight to the point, asking why the chieftain rejected the offer. Rak lays out his stance clearly. He doesn't like taking offers that others have already turned down. If another tribe rejected it first, then the deal clearly isn't worth much. Hui insists the Automation Castle prepared this offer specifically for the black-scaled tribe. But Rak isn't fooled. It's no coincidence Owen ran into this man and brought him here. According to Owen, Hui came from the north, not the west, yet the Automation Castle is located to the west. And the severed ear tribe of Salkite lives in the northern wilderness. That means Hui went to Salkite first, and only came here after being rejected. Now Rak demands honesty. He already knows who this man really is, the Lord of the Automation Castle, Co. Hui. Before going further, here's a quick rundown of the Automation Castle. Even though it's built from clay, it's surrounded by 5-meter-high walls, making it an engineering marvel for this era. It's also one of the Lost World's great mysteries, patrolled and maintained by mud soldiers. Inside this strange castle, humans and various tribes live together. From an enemy's point of view, the castle is incredibly hard to attack thanks to its terrain. The mountain valley it sits in is the gateway to the rest of the continent. In simple terms, controlling the Automation Castle means controlling access to the continent. And on top of that, it has a salt mine, an insanely valuable resource. Back to the negotiation, Rak makes one thing clear. He doesn't believe in gifts with no price. And if that gift comes from someone hiding their true identity, he's even more likely to reject it. Since the Lord of the Automation Castle keeps dodging confirmation of who he is, Rak becomes even more convinced. He knows the name was only revealed to test how much the lizardmen actually know about the castle. Inside the Automation Castle, almost no one knows the Lord's true name or appearance. Even among the 4 loyal clans, only a few are aware. And the name Hui is shared among the Lord's bloodline. Rak has heard rumors. 2 sons, 3 daughters. The man in front of him clearly isn't a woman. And judging by the wrinkles on his hands, he's far from young. That's how Rak figured out exactly who he was dealing with. The Lord of the Automation Castle is genuinely impressed by how much Rak knows. He can't recall any lizardmen ever serving close enough for secrets like this to leak. Which makes it crazy that Rak figured all this out without ever entering the castle. In the end, the man admits it. He really is the Lord of the Automation Castle, and the gift was genuine. Still, Rak isn't convinced. If there truly was no price attached, then those greedy Sulcate idiots would never have rejected it. Rak has already figured out what the castle really wants. By offering free salt, they're trying to buy the black-scaled tribe's protection. Once the tribe depends on that salt, they'll worry about the castle being attacked. If the Automation Castle falls, the salt supply disappears. Hui doesn't deny this, but he insists on calling it a trade. He even points out that the deal heavily favors the black-scaled tribe, which is why he doesn't understand the rejection. Rak then hits him with the real issue. Why protect the Automation Castle when he could just take it instead? Drive the humans out, and the tribe gets the castle, the valley, and all its resources. And there it is, the exact same answer we got from the Salcate. The reason negotiations failed. Of course, Hui immediately calls that a declaration of war, but Rak calmly explains that lizard men don't do diplomacy. They simply choose whatever benefits them most. Hui tries to intimidate him by boasting about the power of the automation castle. Rak admits the black-scaled tribe would take losses, but he's confident they could still conquer it. After all, they worship the blue insect god. If their god steps in, those towering walls would melt like wet clay, and the soldiers inside would be crushed by divine power. And on top of that, the lord of the castle is sitting right in front of them. Kill him, and taking the castle becomes child's play. The man just laughs. He's convinced Rak wouldn't dare kill him, because if he dies, Rak would lose any way of knowing who the next heir of the automation castle would be. At first, Rak doesn't think that information matters much. So Hui decides to explain it using a board game called Go. It's a game where players place black and white stones on intersecting lines. The goal is simple. Completely surround your opponent. Right now, Hui is just one of those stones. This entire war, this expansion, is nothing more than a game of Go between two gods. Rak and his enemies are just pieces on the board, moved by higher beings. The black-scaled tribe has entered round 2, facing the gnolls. This time, the prize is the automation castle. Whoever wins this round becomes its true owner. Hui already knows Rak has been interfering with the castle's succession. Some lizard men and their followers have approached his children, trying to convert them to the lizardman's god. By now, a few of them already believe. With the secret out, Rak doesn't bother denying it. This is the cleanest, smartest way to take the automation castle. A strategy that spills almost no blood. To understand how Rak pulled all this off, we rewind to 3 weeks earlier. Nebula is suddenly approached by Hegemonia, the second-ranked player in Perished World, and his usual rival. Hegemonia tries to act friendly, like an old buddy, but Nebula tells him to skip the act and get to the point. Turns out, the two of them are the players chosen to fight over the automation castle. The fact that it's still early in the game and the top players are already colliding only makes it worse. This will be the final round. And whoever loses is gone forever. Nebula already knows Hegemonia's playstyle. The guy has insane instincts, can multitask like a beast, and dominates early game wars. Exactly the kind of fight Nebula wants to avoid. So instead of going head-on, Nebula chooses another route. He activates contradictory prophecies. Here's how prophecy works in Perished World. Once a player's divinity hits level 6, they can assign themselves a prophecy. Basically a self-made quest with massive rewards. But failing it is brutal. You lose all the experience invested, all related faith points, and might even trigger a random disaster. Now, when two players create prophecies that contradict each other, one wins big, and the other eats the punishment. Hegemonia is totally on board, but he wants to know what the prophecy will be about. Nebula remembers that the automation castle is close to choosing its next lord. Only the current lord knows the exact timing of the succession ritual, so Nebula proposes this. Who will become the next lord of the automation castle? Out of the lord's 5 children, each player chooses one. As long as they pick different heirs and prophesy their chosen one will ascend. The prophecies are guaranteed to clash. Hegemonia already has the list of siblings ready. First is the eldest son, Dan, in his early 30s. He's strong, smart, and deeply trusted by Hui. With 2 of the 4 clans backing him, he's the most likely successor. Next is June, a man in his late 20s. He's Dan's half-brother, and most people see him as weak. He rarely shows himself in public and has zero interest in ruling. Only one clan supports him, his mother's. The third is Jean, a woman in her late 20s and Dan's full sibling, born to the Lord's legal wife. She loves disguises, sneaking out to parties, and hanging with rough types like hunters. She's backed by the last remaining clan. Fourth is Kyung, a woman in her early 20s. She has a different mother from the first 2 children, and as far as Hegemonia knows, that mother is already dead. There's something eerie about Kyung's appearance, the result of a curse. Because of it, she's been isolated not just by the Lord, but by the clans too. The last child is Min, the 5th, currently in her mid-teens. She's said to be incredibly smart, and gifted in many areas. As the youngest, she's naturally the Lord's favorite. With all 5 candidates laid out, it's finally time for the 2 players to make their picks. Hegemonia even tells Nebula to take as much time as he wants. But Nebula's already done his research, he's ready. They each choose an heir, and the system prepares to activate the contradictory prophecy. Before it starts, a warning pops up about the consequences. Nebula accepts and locks in his decision. Hegemonia chooses Seo Hui's second child, Jun Hui, as the next lord of the Automation Castle. Nebula, meanwhile, selects the 4th child, Kyung Hui, the so-called cursed one. Hegemonia can't hide his shock at Nebula's choice. Now that they've chosen different heirs, the real game begins. The contradictory prophecy is officially triggered. Cut back to Rakrak's meeting with Hui. Hui has already begun suspecting that the Black-Scaled tribe and the Knoll tribe are deeply tied to the strange rumors spreading around. And the fact that he's still alive after meeting both chieftains only confirms it. Their gods are clashing, and he's nothing more than a stone on their board. Rakrak finally speaks, bringing the conversation to a close. Hui has 2 options: choose Salkite or the Black-Scaled tribe, the Knolls or the Lizard Men, the Raging Teeth God or the Blue Insect God. Of course, that choice isn't simple. It's like deciding whether to stick your head into the mouth of a saber-toothed tiger, or a cockatoo. Rakrak confidently says the cockatoo is the better choice. But according to Salkite, the tiger's mouth is safer. For now, Hui refuses to choose either side. To Rakrak, that just sounds like Hui accepting his fate as nothing more than another stone. Hui decides to end the talk and prepares to leave, but before going, he asks Rakrak one last question. Rakrak is a stone too, so doesn't that make him afraid? Angry? The lizard man simply smiles and says he'll answer once everything is over. Some time later, Hui reunites with his people. After shaving off the beard he grew during the journey, he hops on his horse and heads back toward the Automation Castle. About 3 weeks earlier, we see Kyung Hui struggling alone on a mountain path, or rather, failing to climb it. Her cart full of salt has slipped off the narrow trail, leaving her clinging to a rock with everything she's got. Here's the thing about Kyung. Ever since she can remember, she's been told she's cursed. The clans shunned her, blamed her for her mother's death. And she doesn't even resent them. Her life really has been one freak accident after another. At 13, she fell down the market stairs. At 14, she was accused of stealing salt and locked up for days. At 15, she fell straight through the bathroom floor. Yeah, that one nearly killed her. Honorable mentions include water jars smashing onto her head and being chased all night by rabid dogs. So climbing this mountain should be easy, right? Wrong. It's brutal. She's now stuck at a steep section with nothing left to hold on to. If she jumps fast enough, she might reach the next ledge, but it's insanely risky. Luckily, she doesn't have to pull something that reckless. A lizard man is waiting above, reaching down to help her. It looks like this is her first time meeting him, and she asks who he is. But the lizard man thinks formal introductions can wait, considering she's hanging off a cliff. He says she's pretty bold for hauling a cart packed with salt down such a narrow, landslide-prone path. If the wheel hadn't broken, she'd already be across the mountain. After she insists, the lizard man finally introduces himself. His name is Sarin Mule. She thanks him for the much-needed help and tries to head on her way. But Sarin stops her. He's not done yet. Things take a sharp turn when she realizes she's not alone. The moment she hears him say her real name, she snaps, hand flying to her knife, eyes filled with killing intent. Sarin immediately raises his hands and surrenders, saying he learned her name from Chief Rakrak. He's honest about it too. The chief is the one who sent him to find her. She asks if he really means Rakrak the Hunter, the lizard man of thunder, the first chosen one. That only confuses her more. Why would someone like Rakrak be looking for her? Sarin admits he doesn't know everything, but the chief is likely acting because of rumors spreading about her. Kyung has no idea what he's talking about. She's been away from the Automation Castle for a while, traveling to buy silk. According to Sarin, one rumor says the Lord's second child will become the next ruler. Another claims the fourth child will take the throne. Hearing rumors about herself, she immediately assumes they're fake. She's an illegitimate child with zero interest in castle politics. Most likely, one of her siblings started those rumors to gain an advantage. So she tells Saren he's chasing the wrong person and should be looking for her brothers or sisters instead. Internally, though, she's shaken. This lizard man knows her true identity, something even the Lord's children must keep hidden. Even if he's strong, she feels she has no choice but to risk it and kill him. Saren seems to read her thoughts, which is why he reveals something else. He was also ordered to protect her. That completely throws her off. So Saren explains. Even if she thinks the rumors are nonsense, the major families of the Automation Castle won't ignore them. They'll do whatever it takes to eliminate her before the succession, just to reduce uncertainty. She flat out refuses his help, saying she can protect herself just fine. But Saren doesn't budge. Orders are orders. Finally, she pushes her bangs aside and reveals the horns growing from her head. She's cut them down, but they always grow back from the base. A curse she's lived with since birth. These same horns tore through her mother's womb and killed one of her siblings. She believes she only brings misfortune to others, which is why she chooses to stay alone. Saren can't help but feel sorry for her. But cursed or not, he doesn't care. He's here on tribal orders, and if she refuses, he'll use force. Kyung weighs her options. If fear won't scare this giant off, then she has no choice but to give in. And honestly, considering the terrain, traveling with him isn't a terrible idea. He did swear to protect her life, meaning he'll help if she's ever in danger. First things first, she still needs to get the silk, so she plans to go down and then come back up. Saren points out her injured leg and tells her charging in recklessly isn't smart. Maybe she should learn to ask for help sometimes. She gets embarrassed. Sometime later they're on the move, with Saren carrying the silk. As they walk, she asks how he even found her. Turns out, Saren searched using the alias everyone knows her by. Bingzi. Her contacts didn't even ask for a bribe. They happily gave up her location for free. They also told him she planned to start her own silk business, and that one of them even lent her a cart, which she never returned. She basically scammed the poor guy and vanished for days. Saren finds it hilarious. She dreams of building a huge business while trampling over the most basic rule of all business: trust. After a short walk, the Automation Castle finally comes into view. Then everything suddenly goes sideways. Someone tries to ambush her, hurling a dagger straight at her. Saren jumps in front and takes it himself. The blade sinks deep into his hand. The attackers are green-skinned goblins. Looks like the succession war has already kicked off. In seconds, Saren completely wipes them out. Even Kyung is stunned by how insanely skilled this lizard man is. And that reminds her. She once heard stories about a legendary lizard man warrior named Yuri. Saren confirms it's true. Yuri is the strongest warrior of the black-scaled tribe. In fact, Saren learned all his combat techniques from him. As for medicine, he picked that up from Zeol back when he worked as her errand boy. Zeol handles the tribe's internal affairs, and she's also Rakrak's wife. Since Saren was trained under her, it makes sense he turned out this capable. And learning under Yuri explains why he holds such a high position. Someone like him protecting her could change everything. Suddenly, Kyung freezes when she sees Saren handing over her silk. She hates the idea, but right now, acting submissive is the smart move. Not long after, they finally reach the Automation Castle, only to find the gates shut tight. Authorities are blocking anyone from entering. Kyung asks a nearby traveler what's going on. The foxman warns her specifically not to enter, especially since she's a silk merchant. If she goes in now, she won't be allowed to leave. Clearly, something serious is happening inside the castle. At the Gyo family residence, Kyung reunites with her business partner, Gyo-young, the one who lent her the cart. Instead of thanking him, she immediately starts yelling about how defective it was. Gyo-young fires back, saying that's her own fault. Anyway, he asks if anything else happened during her trip besides the cart accident. Kyung tells him about the assassination attempt, and how this lizard man saved her. Saren introduces himself, and Gyo-young does the same. He's the head of the Geo family, one of the 4 major families of the Automation Castle. Saren adds that the goblins claimed the Geo family had nothing to do with the attack. Gyo-young doubles down, saying his family would never stoop that low. Kyung then asks why the castle is under such heavy lockdown. She knows no one would panic just because the cursed fourth daughter was attacked. Turns out, there was another assassination attempt, inside the castle itself. With the lord gone, one of the top heirs, her brother Hui Dan, has vanished. Soon after, the three of them visit the room where the attack happened. The place hits Kyung with nostalgia. She used to be close to her brother when they were kids, before everything changed. Saren suddenly spots bloodstains on the floor. The marks make it obvious. Someone tried to clean them up. With that much blood, it's easy to guess, the victim is already dead. The authorities noticed this too. The problem is, they never found the body. That's why the castle gates were sealed. The idea is simple: if the corpse is still inside, it'll rot and smell eventually. When that happens, the killer gets exposed. Still, Kim finds it strange. No murderer would be stupid enough to overlook something that obvious. Either way, she decides it's not her problem and stops thinking about it. Then suddenly, she feels something sinister. A dark presence speaks to her. It offers to reveal the killer, sensing her inner turmoil. Saren can tell something's wrong. She looks unwell. It seems she's already found the answer they were searching for. She asks about someone who owns a container big enough to hide a corpse without raising suspicion. Someone who regularly uses large pots meant for storing meat. Two possibilities immediately come to mind. Either a butcher, or a hunter. If someone wanted to slow down a corpse's decay, packing it in salt would be the perfect method. That means the culprit would need easy access to hunters, the freedom to walk around the castle with them, and a home filled with salted meat stored in large pots. Someone who regularly visits the administrative office too. Narrow it down with those conditions, and only one person fits, and they're also a succession candidate. That person is Hui Jin, Kyung's sister. And sure enough, Kyung's suspicion was dead on. Even though she only shared this theory with a few people, by the time Dan's death became public, Jin was already the prime suspect. With nowhere left to hide, Jin was forced to flee the automation castle. But her escape didn't last long. Her younger sister, Hui Min, caught up to her. She ambushed her own sister, and killed her with her own hands. Then things spiraled even further. Her brother stepped in, and Min was stabbed to death along with the men who came to deal with Jin. With three siblings already dead, Jun's path was basically cleared. The only one left standing in his way was Kyung. Days later, Kyung receives the horrifying news: Jin and Min were both found dead. And at the same location, Dan's body was finally discovered as well. At this point, anyone could see who orchestrated all of this. It was Jun Hui. He knew Jin would make the first move, and that Min would jump at the chance. So he waited while his siblings wiped each other out. Kyung realizes the attempt on her life was his doing too. Without Saren stepping in, it would have been written off as a simple robbery. Now it's clear, Kyung is truly in danger. And this time, she's ready to face it head on. Gyo-young then updates them on the latest Geo clan meeting. Most families are backing Jun Hui since he holds the advantage. But the Geo clan has decided to place their bet on her. Kyung is genuinely moved by that decision. Jung makes it clear, it's not about personal ties. It's a calculated move. The entire Geo clan wants her alive. Before leaving, Kyung promises she'll do everything she can. This time, she truly wants to survive and push through it all. For once, someone has placed their faith in her. And she refuses to let them down. Over the next few days, Kyung sits through tense meetings. The Geo clan wants to eliminate Jun Hui entirely, not just dodge his assassins. But that's easier said than done. The Sang and Tu clans both support him. To win this succession war, they need the Su clan on their side too. As arguments rage on, Kyung notices something strange. Her antlers are growing faster than ever. They're growing so quickly now that she's stopped bothering to cut them. If Saren knew they made her bleed, he wouldn't have let her try anyway. Either way, she reflects on how insane her situation has become. Just a week ago, she was hustling silk deals. Now she's trapped in a deadly succession battle. Right on cue, a messenger rushes in, announcing the early arrival of the Lord of the Automation Castle. He's expected to arrive by tomorrow morning. There's also a message meant only for Kyung. As the man leans in to whisper, it's revealed he's an assassin, but Kyung's guards take him down instantly. He doesn't even get the chance to draw the hidden dagger. Turns out he was from the Geo clan, meaning he'd been bribed by the enemy. Realizing they can't even trust those nearby only makes things worse. And then it gets even uglier. A full-scale battle breaks out outside. Junhui is determined to kill her before the Lord arrives. That's why they urge Kyung to escape immediately. With no other option left, they take the underground passage. She's definitely not thrilled about crawling through this underground gutter. But they don't have a choice, so they eventually climb in. As they move through the foul-smelling tunnel, Saren's surprised she's holding up this well. Not surprisingly, she says she's already had first-hand experience falling into latrines before. She nearly died that day when she fell in. But luckily, a massive pile of filth broke her fall. She rolled all the way into the sewage without getting hurt, but it was pitch black down there. Just when she thought she was done for, she saw floating lights. She followed those lights and managed to escape the gutter. They were fireflies, and the fact they don't belong in a place like that made it feel like a miracle. It doesn't take Saren long to realize who really saved her, though he keeps it to himself. He plays it off, saying it must have been some random insect species that wandered in. Eventually, they reach the exit door. Saren decides to go first. If he doesn't come back after a while, she's told to run in the opposite direction. Left alone, Kyung starts thinking about how considerate Saren really is. She's only alive because of him. For 3 weeks, she's pushed back against his orders, yet he's stubbornly kept his promise. Suddenly, she hears something unsettling. It reminds her of his warning, to run back if anything happens. But instead of retreating, she pushes past her fear and sprints forward to save her friend. The moment she exits the gutter, she sees Saren impaled by a spear. Her brother Jun is there too, looking pleased with himself for taking care of the lizard. Even wounded, Saren refuses to show any weakness. Jun scoffs at the lizard's stubbornness. He orders his men to deal with Kyung and ignore Saren. But Saren won't allow that. He lunges forward, smashing through the humans one after another. After snapping off the spear stuck in his back, he scolds her for making the wrong call. Running away would have been the smartest move. Still, he admits he respects her guts. She chose to fight instead of flee. He sees himself in her. Even though he was only ordered to protect her, not die for her, he still did. Standing side by side, ready to face their enemy, Jun orders his lackeys to kill either of them and earn a cart full of silk. The lackeys hesitate. They fear this lizard might be one of the chosen. But their leader snaps them back, saying a true chosen wouldn't hide his power until getting stabbed in the back. Meanwhile, Saren quickly sizes up their surroundings. The wall beside them is mostly solid salt crystal, connected to a nearby salt mine. He tells Kyung they're running right, confusing her, since there's clearly a wall there. Saren admits he's not a chosen, but that doesn't mean he's ordinary. After all, he's the second strongest warrior of his tribe. As the enemies rush them, he tells her to brace herself and sprint to the right. Then this man ducks his head and smashes through the wall like a freaking armadillo, leaving everyone stunned. Seeing them escape, Jun screams for his men to chase them. Even though they get out of immediate danger, Saren is bleeding badly, making it hard for him to keep moving. And to make things worse, they hit a dead end in the tunnel. Before he bleeds out, Kyung suggests pulling out the rest of the spear. But he refuses. Pulling it out now would make him bleed out instantly. Suddenly, Kyung starts crying, catching Saren off guard. Not because she's crying, but because he's happy she's crying for him. She starts blaming herself for all the misfortune around her, pinning everything on her curse. But Saren shuts that down immediately. He reminds her how many insane threats they've faced over the past 3 weeks. And yet, she survived every single one. Normally, people would call that insanely good luck. That realization hits her hard. It completely flips how she sees herself, forcing her to admit she might actually be blessed with luck. Saren then thinks back to the day they first met. He went down the cliff to retrieve the silk, and that's when he noticed something off about the cart. Something wasn't right. There were clear signs that someone had deliberately damaged the part holding the axle in place. She borrowed that cart from Jung before the succession fight even started. And looking back, it's also suspicious how the latrine floor broke so easily under the weight of a child. Saren believes someone had been trying to kill her long before the succession war. Once again, that eerie curse voice echoes in her mind. It calls her out for pretending she doesn't know she's being targeted. Deep down, she's always known who's been after her, and who wants her dead. Before she can dwell on it, her brother and his men finally corner the two of them. June smirks, confident they're trapped deep in the salt mine, no walls to smash through this time. At his signal, the underlings rush straight toward the wounded Saren. Right now, the only thing Saren is betting on is the luck that somehow kept Kyung alive through all this madness. And then, miracle. A crackling mass of electricity forms between the two sides. Out pops the stingray, announcing huge news. Saren Mule has been chosen. The lackeys have no idea what this creature is even talking about. As for their scumbag leader, he loses patience and screams for them to charge anyway. Meanwhile, Saren is stunned. He's become one of the chosen. There were only 5 before. With him, that makes 6. Meaning one of the original chosen must have died. And that was Stargazer, leaving an open seat to be filled. As the second bravest warrior of his tribe, Saren qualifies to inherit that role. From this moment on, he acts as a proxy of God's will. Those who carry God's will can borrow and wield divine power. From now on, Saren is officially one of the chosen, and the tide of battle is about to flip. With the creature gone, June orders his men to attack, cluelessly charging toward their doom. Meanwhile, our absolute unit of a lizard is fully supercharged with electricity. He yanks the spear out of his abdomen, instantly cauterizing the wound to stop the bleeding. The poor fools rushing him clearly have no idea how screwed they are. Raising his hand, he calls down a bolt of thunder, electrocuting the entire group, and dropping them unconscious on the spot. The few still standing immediately turn tail and run, dragging their cowardly leader with them, of course. Guess they just missed their only chance to capture our duo. Because Saren is completely drained after that move, but Kyung doesn't realize it yet. Seeing that kind of power, she wonders why the Blackscale tribe doesn't just fight the Clipped Ear tribe head-on. Saren knows the answer. This power comes with heavy drawbacks that prevent abusing it. He can already feel intense mental exhaustion creeping in. That's probably why Owen always smoked after using this ability. Kyung starts worrying about him. But Saren reassures her he's fine. Honestly, he feels better now that he's not bleeding out.